Right now, I'm just seeing one crash on one interstate here in Nashville. Police reporting one at 65 northbound and Wedgwood Avenue, exit 81 in Belmont. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, kids. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The guy just said that. My name is Matt Murphy, conveniently, and this is a Tuesday, December 31 edition of the program. It's our final day of 2024, as you might expect. We couldn't have another one if we wanted to, because tomorrow is 2025. It's episode 719 of our proceedings together on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's also Locks for Trump Day 304. That's right. I've been growing out my hair for 304 full days. And now that Donald Trump is the president-elect, we're anticipating the inauguration so that I can choose to cut my hair at my leisure, although there's a lot of questions as to whether or not that's going to happen or not. One way or the other, we'll have a fun show for you today, I hope, and I invite you to be a part of every single moment of it. Two guys that I know will be a part of just about every moment of it. That would be Chris Weber, who's behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as possible, and it's hard work when I'm behind the microphone. Hello, Mr. Weber.
I'm tired already.
You look great.
Thank you.
I screwed up.
Yeah, you missed it.
I missed it. Yeah. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, well, it's not a Friday. You know, game day's usually Saturday, so Friday, but, you know.
But Chris Weber is well adorned in his Georgia Bulldog gear as our beloved dogs take on the hated Notre Dame Fighting Irish tomorrow night. What is that, like 9 o'clock?
Yeah,
10 o'clock? It's
way too late for me.
Ridiculously late game. Yeah. Thankfully, we work later on.
Yeah.
Ken Weaver's back in the newsroom. He is not adorned in Bulldog gear. He's in his fetching Columbia top. I did notice that when I busted into the newsroom earlier. Hey, Ken.
How you doing, boys?
So
I wear this every day, by the way.
So I admit that I hate the University of Alabama. And I admit, but I earned it. I earned every molecule of hatred in my body for them. I earned it because I lived in the state for the better part of 21 years, and I dealt with those folks. And I love look, individually they're wonderful people, but collectively they get together and they put on certain colors and they become just untenable. And so football's fun. Football's a good time. Football's a lot of – but I was rushing into the newsroom to regale Ken Weaver with my one-liners about Bama losing today. And in my defense, men, I looked up at the on-air light, and it was not on. This was during the 2:30 newscast. By the way, if you go back and you listen to the 2:30 newscast on Chad Benson's show, you will not hear Ken Weaver waver once.
No, not at all.
I mean, not this is an award-winning newsman, despite the fact that I was in the background. Blah, 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 why isn't he turning around, everybody? It's because he's doing his job. But anyway, I apologize, Ken Weaver.
That's all right, Brother Murphy.
Yeah, you guys got big. We're going to talk about the big plans for New Year's Eve night at 5:30 tonight.
Boy.
5:30, we're going to have a big segment called Getting to Know You, which is it's growing in popularity.
Ooh, what, 2 people now are interested?
No, one.
Oh.
Now my mom and dad, they'll be watching from Tulsa.
Mom and dad, and then including me. Yeah. So that's 3.
3. Wow, that's 300% growth.
I mean, we're doing well on the Getting to Know You segment. Very, very popular segment on the new afternoon show. So at 5:30, we'll talk Getting to Know You, New Year's Eve edition. All kind of questions about traditions, whether or not you have specific things you have to eat on New Year's Day, because that's a big deal in the South.
Yes, it is.
It's a big deal, so we'll do that at 5:30. While we're signposting, let's go ahead and say that Congressman Rose is going to stop by our studio for the last day of the year.
Oh, excellent.
Very nice.
Yeah, he's in town and wondered if we would have him by, and so certainly 4 o'clock, 4:05 to be precise today.
Is he stopping by on his way to Bicentennial Park?
Maybe so.
He's going to hang out with 200,000 people down there tonight.
Listen, Rose doesn't know this, but we're going to get through all of the H-1B stuff, and we'll get through the Speaker of the House stuff and all of the stuff that he has to handle in the new year as a congressman from the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
We'll talk about some agriculture and farming stuff. And before you know it, I'm going to start asking him about some rumors that I've heard about Congressman Rose.
Uh-oh.
Some good stuff.
Juicy.
Juicy rumors about what 2025 might hold for the good congressman and the state of Tennessee. That is on the way at 4:05. I hope that doesn't cause Congressman Rose to
Never mind.
turn the car
Traffic
around.
was too bad, boys.
Oh, yeah. I tried to come up on I-24.
I was coming up 24 and changed my mind.
Should have listened to Ken Weaver, and I didn't.
Ken Weaver told me to go through Franklin on 65, but did I do it? No, I did not. All right, so we've got big fun for you today. We'll have a good time, and we'll also fill you with the news. And the big news from a political perspective today remains what's going to happen really Friday when the vote occurs regarding the Speaker of the House. I have a good idea of how I think this is going to go, but it really is up in the air. As you heard Ken Weaver relating in the newscast moments ago, Congressman Scott Desjardins says, who knows what's going to happen? We just don't know. Tim Burchett yesterday on our show said, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how many people are going to defect. One thing that we surely do know is that Congressman Thomas Massie is not going to vote for Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. Massie is being obstinate. You can say that the guy is, resting on his principles. You can say that he is a man of good principle, and I am certain that he is. Because Thomas Massie, if you look at his record in Congress, and look, I like the guy. He is as much of a libertarian as you're going to get in the halls of Congress. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the principle that he stands on. But at the same time, you have to have a Speaker of the House. And when you're not proposing any other Speaker of the House, you're just steadfastly refusing to move. Well, if you're moving a particular candidate forward and advancing that candidate above and beyond Mike Johnson, that's one thing. And I understand the consternation and the frustration that people have with Mike Johnson, and we'll discuss it today with Congressman John Rose. But the idea that you have any other candidate that can get to 218 is just a fantasy. One, there isn't another candidate that has offered their name for consideration. That's number one. And that's the big one. Right? There's Mike Johnson, Republican. There's Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat. And then there's nobody else. So until and unless there's someone else that offers their hat into the ring, and y'all tell me if I've missed someone, these are our choices. But here's where I would expect that all of this is going to break down. This is my anticipation. And look, I'm not Nostradamus. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just like the next guy. I observe what's happening in Washington, D.C. inside of the Beltway. I utilize my years of experience in doing this type of thing, and I tell you what I think is going to happen. Here's what I think is going to happen. Several Congress people, along with Thomas Massie, will hold a ceremonial show pony vote for the first ballot. They will vote against Mike Johnson, probably going to be around 8 or so holdouts. The problem is if there are too many holdouts on the initial vote, well, Hakeem Jeffries can't get to 218, thankfully. But you'll probably have about 5 to 8 individuals that vote for someone else, maybe as many as 10 individuals that vote for someone else during the first round of voting. They will demand concessions, some of them. Maybe they get some of those concessions. Maybe they don't. I don't know. I expect in the second or the third round of voting, those that have made their point will have made their point, and they'll move on to Mike Johnson, because come Monday, the 6th, you've got to certify a presidential election, and you have to have a Speaker of the House to do it. And if you don't have a Speaker of the House, you got to get a Speaker of the House before you do it. So clock's a ticking. You do not have the footing when you need to certify a presidency and begin a new session of Congress that you might have had when you were, for example, ousting Kevin McCarthy. What's amazing to me is some of the same people that were instrumental in ousting Kevin McCarthy are now saying Kevin McCarthy was better than Mike Johnson. To which I say, well, maybe you should have thought of that when you were ousting Kevin. I mean, I don't know. maybe you should have thought about who you're going to get. It's like firing college football coaches. Don't fire your 10-2 coach before you figure out who you're going to bring in to be better. Of course, Georgia fans thought that for a long time about Mark Richt, and look, okay, that completely destroys my argument. But one way or the other,
it worked out for us.
It worked out for us. That's true. That's the most important thing. All right, so we'll discuss that. We're going to break that down throughout the course of the day today. We're also going to talk some about the best of 2024, predictions for 2025. Joe Biden is experiencing his last days in office. Thank goodness. Cannot come soon enough. January 20th. He got back from vacation in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Anybody want to guess what he's going to do?
Going on vacation?
He's going back on vacation. He's going to Delaware for a day, and then he's going to Camp David.
That's tough, man. That's a tough gig.
It is rough. 40+% of the man's presidency has been spent in some form of vacation during his time in the White House. Now, if anybody's watched Joe Biden for any length of time, you know that the guy's kind of been on permanent vacation. So, and I understand, look, I've never been one to give grief to presidents who travel here, there, and everywhere. Despite the fact that it's a huge waste of taxpayer dollars, the bottom line is the presidency goes wherever the president is. If Donald J. Trump is on a golf course, the presidency is with him. The White House is with him. If Donald J. Trump is here, there, or anywhere, the White House is with him. So I'm not much of one to necessarily criticize, but sadly, they put him on permanent vacation to keep him away from the American public for fear that their lie would be exposed, and that's what's bothersome. They were lying this entire time, and I've got a couple of audio clips about how they're now gaslighting regarding their lies. When I say they, I mean the mainstream media and the liberal Democrats. They knew what this dude was, and this dude was what he was in 2020. Not in 2023, 2024. This hasn't recently happened. It's gotten worse and harder to hide. But in Biden's last days, whoever's calling the shots, man, they're doing their best to close the loop. They decided to close the government on January 9th. This in honor of former President Jimmy Carter, who died over the weekend at the age of 100. He will lie, Jimmy Carter will, and, I suppose it's appropriate for presidents of the United States, even though they may be the worst president of the United States in modern history and maybe in all of history. Jimmy Carter will lie in state at the United States Capitol for a couple of days, and then on January 9th, he will be buried, National Cathedral, Washington, D.C., and all of the government will be closed to that day, according to Joe Biden. To which I say, why only a day? I think we should honor Jimmy Carter and close the government for until January 20th or beyond. Hell, I'm willing. Why not just keep the Department of Education closed for the rest of eternity? There are certain departments that we could close in honor of Jimmy Carter for all time. Why not? Joe Biden's not stopping there, though. While on vacation, and of course he's making these decisions, right? Wink, wink. Has decided to shut down drilling in Nevada. I'm going to talk to you about that. He's decided to give billions of more dollars to Ukraine. By the way, people in western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee are still suffering. Still suffering from Hurricane Helene. The aftermath of Setse. The people of Mississippi are suffering right now. There was disastrous storms that happened over the weekend in Mississippi. Some of that rain that we got through Middle Tennessee. That went through Mississippi. Tornadoes touched down. There are people that are suffering in Mississippi. Our folks can't get relief. Now, we could have a robust theoretical debate about whether or not the federal government should be offering this level of relief at all. And frankly, as a libertarian with a small L, I don't think that we should. But we damn sure should be giving it to American citizens before we give it to Ukraine. But that's not what Joe Biden's doing. $2.5 billion going to Ukraine. I've got new laws coming up in the state of Tennessee today. We'll tell you about some of those laws that are going into effect starting tomorrow, January 1. Plus a lot of fun. You on the phone, 615-737-9986. One of my favorite things to do, that telephone number that I just gave you that you can call, I give it often and as quickly as possible just to keep you on your toes. 615-737-9986. So that number is also our super text line. One of the things that I love to do, I've been doing this for a while. I've never talked about it on the radio. Have you ever gone back, Weber? You have access to the super text line when you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever gone back and looked at some of the comments made to previous shows and wondered what in the hell they were talking about?
On occasion, I've noticed that, yeah.
And if you don't know what they're talking about, so I was just, there's one that I can't repeat on the radio from 3064, and I'm like, what were y'all talking about? That 3064 decided to say what he said. It's a nasty comment. But anyway, it's one of my favorite things to do. There's no way to translate it on the radio, especially considering some of the comments that I'm looking at right now. But like South Park, Belvedere, Billy Strings, I love ABBA. You guys are great. Happy New Year. Nailed it. A lot of fun. Just random comments from previous programs. Now presented on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. So text us or call us. We'd love to hear from you. It's a Tuesday feels like a Friday on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Defend Systems is a life safety and security consulting firm based right here in Middle Tennessee, and I've been talking about them for a long time, and I'm proud to introduce them to the afternoon audience. Defend Systems is owned and operated by Brink Fiddler, who has almost 20 years of experience in the Metro Nashville Police Department, and he's had years of experience helping you as a business owner or a decider within a business, or really any place people gather, like a school or a church function, deal with the dangerously developing world that we live in. Active shooter realities are a possibility. Now, I don't want to scare you. I'm not here to scare you. The possibility of something negative, workplace violence or an active shooter situation happening in your workplace, your school, your church, very, very low. But they're not zero, which is why I say hope is not a plan. It is time to get trained. They offer active shooter response, workplace violence prevention, site surveys and threat assessment, emergency and intruder action plans, rapid response medical training, all customized to your staff and to your facility. Hope is not a plan. Let's get trained. Go to defendsystems.com or call 615-236-6484, 236-6484 for Defend Systems. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about Spice and Easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
We know the identity of the woman burned alive on a New York City subway train this month. This story and others at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. Speaking of that story, we're going to talk about that in just a moment because there was another incident that happened in New York City in the subway system as well. And I have a call out. I have spoken over the years on a couple of occasions to Curtis Sliwa, who is known as the guardian angel, the head of the guardian angels. You'd know Curtis if you saw him, if you don't know him by name. He wears a beret all the time. Oftentimes it's a red beret, but he has red satin jackets that he hands out to his guardian angels. And in the late 80s, we were talking about him yesterday, in the late 80s and early 1990s, they were doing a lot of patrol in the New York subway system because, sadly, the New York City Police Department wasn't doing its job. The New York City Police Department is hamstrung to the point that they can't do their job again. And so now the Guardian Angels are back at it, offering support, assistance, and protection in the New York City subway systems. It is sad to say that in 2024, in the biggest city in the United States of America, that in their mass transit systems, that you have to resort to what is ultimately vigilantism in order to protect the riders of the subway. Sadder still, when citizens themselves attempt to protect fellow riders instead of applauding them and treating them like heroes, Daniel Penny, they're treated like criminals. You mollycoddle the criminals and treat the people that are trying to stop the criminals like the criminals. Makes zero sense. Alan is first up on the Matt Murphy Show this day before New Year's Day. Hello, Alan. How are you?
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen. Hope all is well.
I'm great. Thank you.
Well, first of all, let me start out with this. This president we have in office right now, if he ever produced one drop of sweat, it would be enough to cure cancer. That's how hard he'd have to work at it. We know that's not going to happen. Okay, subject matter in question. You guys are talking about the child tax credit.
No, I wasn't.
Well, no, I'm talking about in the past. So let me back up.
When did I talk about the child tax credit in the past?
Well, maybe not you in reference to.
Oh, okay. So you're bringing up a new subject.
Right.
Okay,
so
fine. That's
in the
cool.
past. Okay. So here's my thought. People that are getting to the point where they're going to retire and they have grandchildren, let's approach it this way. I know most people are hesitant because I have family members that have children, nieces and nephews and whatnot, and they're hesitant to take it to an unknown source, only by advertisements or someone said, hey, take your child there and drop them off. They'll take care of them. Why not give the grandparents, and I'm 65, but I'm active as I'll get out, why not give them a tax credit if they're healthy by simply going and taking a physical? So their physical acuity and their mental and all that is working. Give them a break.
Are you, so you're paying considerable amount of tax? You're still working, I assume?
Yes. Yeah, I'm not going to. I'm going to be like my parents, both professionals, and they work to their 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I have no reason. I go to the gym every day. I got up at 4:30 in the morning and hit the gym to why, and I'm out there with probably a couple hours. That's beside the point. Why are not we rewarding people who have taken care of themselves and they're an asset to society?
So we should reward people for
not just taking care of themselves, but why are we carrying the water for people who are not doing that, who have smoked and drank and abused their bodies?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's plausible, give them something saying, hey, so this is an incentive, right? We all have to have an incentive, but we don't do it. If you don't want to eat, but if you want things in life, you have to work for it.
What does that have to do with income taxes?
Okay. So they go get a physical, physician signs off, hey, you guys are great, you're in good shape. Now when you go to file your taxes, you send the report in every year now and it says, hey, you qualify, so here you go.
What does being healthy have to do with income taxes?
Because if the grandchild can stay with the grandparents while their children are still working.
Well, Alan, you're talking to someone that disagrees with the child tax credit.
Well, I see the
which
the
you
narrative,
didn't know, although you said that you heard us talking about it before, but you didn't seem to be aware of that.
Well, it was on 99.7. It may not have been just
no. But I don't agree with the child tax credit. I don't agree with income taxes at all. I believe that we should. Well, I believe that we should base our tax system on a consumption tax.
Well, that is a plausible one. That does make a lot of sense. But
Fair tax.
Again, if we're going to play by their rules, hint, hint, then do something for the general public, the people who are retiring.
Well, the problem with the income tax based system, and since you asked, I'll tell you, and thank you for the call, Alan. The problem with the income tax based system is because one of the major problems that we have with our deficit spending in the United States of America today is because we have granted so many carve outs to so many different groups, like you're talking about. The more carve outs you grant to the more different groups, and I understand that this is a group that is, very special to a lot of, people. I'm the guy that has to call the baby ugly, right? People go, what? You don't agree with child tax credits? No, I don't agree with income tax-based carve-outs that further prevent the government from being able to pay for the government that we receive. And sadly, we do so because we allow deficit spending, and people just whistle past the graveyard with regard to what that's going to do to the United States of America down the road. I have more to say on this, but I can't right now because Ken Weaver has news to do, and I'm not going to talk during Ken Weaver's news, unlike at 2:30. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. We know the identity of the woman burned alive on that New York City subway train this month. Mayor Eric Adams spoke at a news conference today.
She resided in New Jersey. She had a brief stint in our homeless shelter system, And, our hearts goes out to the family, a horrific incident to have to live through.
Yeah, 61-year-old Debrina Kawam of Toms River, New Jersey, was sleeping when she was set on fire, allegedly by illegal immigrant from Guatemala, Sebastian Zepeda. He's charged with first-degree and a second-degree murder and first-degree arson. New developments in the effort to bring justice for the victims of 9/11. Here we are 23 and a half years later, and a military appeals court last night upheld Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and two other defendants' plea deals to avoid the death penalty. The Biden administration tried to block that deal, but the military appeals court last night ruled Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has no legal authority. Austin could bring another appeal to the D.C. Circuit. Happy New Year in other parts of the world. This was what it sounded like in Mumbai, India. And here in Nashville, downtown gearing up for one of its biggest parties of the year. 200,000 revelers expected to watch the free concert headlined by Keith Urban and Jelly Roll. The famous Red music note drop. Red Frogs is one of the organizations Channel 4 says is helping to keep everyone safe.
We say we prepare for the crowds, but we have eyes for the one. We always want to make sure that everyone gets home safe. With large groups of people, it's really important that you never leave a friend behind. That you always make sure you have a buddy. And I always say, make sure you drink plenty of water.
Yeah, if you need a bottle of water, maybe you need to charge your phone or just regroup with friends and family, just look for the Red Frog tents there at Bicentennial Mall State Park tonight. Gates open at 5 and it's free. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Over by the airport, we've got the right lane blocked, 40 eastbound, right before Briley Parkway due to a crash. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oftentimes, people realize that they have sleep apnea due to their snoring. Maybe it's your partner that is waking up at night because of your snoring. If it is the result of sleep apnea, I have a solution that doesn't deal with a CPAP machine. I understand, folks. I was in your boat, right? Matt Murphy here for the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Center with Dr. Stephen Poss and Dr. Brian McLaughlin. So I didn't snore that much. However, I was waking up during the night. I felt tired in the morning, and I looked to Dr. Stephen Poss for answers. He offered me a sleep study. I went and got my sleep study. I came back to Dr. Poss, and I said, yes, I have sleep apnea. And he provided me an FDA-approved oral device that gently supports my jaw to help me breathe better, snore less, without a hose, without any mask, and I sleep through the night, and I feel energized in the morning. And all of this can be covered by your insurance. They're in-network with BCBS, Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare, Medicare, and TRICARE for the military. And 2 locations to serve you as well, Brentwood and Murfreesboro. Let's make the call that so many others have made to the Dr. Poss and Dr. McLaughlin Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Center. Go to drposs.com. That's drposs.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 38 minutes after 3. Good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. Matt Murphy with you until 7 tonight. A quick explainer. We'll get back to Joe Biden and some of the last days of the Biden presidency in just a moment. A quick explainer. I wasn't trying to be hard or rude to the previous caller. He was just calling up saying, hey, I want to talk about the thing you were talking about, and we weren't talking about that thing. Nor have I talked about the child tax credit in my recent memory. I mean, maybe someone else, maybe it was Dan Mandis, Nashville's Morning News, maybe Chris Hand, maybe Chad Benson. I don't know. I don't listen to every single moment. As much as I try to listen to every other show, I don't listen to every single moment. However, I'll just give you a basic premise as to where I'm coming from. I disagree with income tax generally. I understand that we have the 16th Amendment of the Constitution. I understand that it would be a heavy lift to take away the power and control that the K Street lobbyists have in Washington, D.C., over their ability to manipulate the tax code and the tax system. Right now, our income tax code, I mean, it's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of pages. Because of all the carve-outs, because of all the loopholes. And so when someone calls and says, hey, you were talking about this, and I wasn't, and then, hey, the premise of this is so-and-so and such, and I disagree with the entire premise. I don't mean to be quick to shut somebody down, but that's just where I'm at on it. I disagree with the child tax credit because it's yet another carve-out. And also the child tax credit's being used. You know, people receive a child tax credit that don't actually pay that amount of money in income taxes. And so they're receiving that money back. Well, they're not even receiving it back. They're just receiving it. So child tax credits can be granted above and beyond income tax paid on the federal level. That becomes then a redistribution of wealth, which I hope we all recognize what that leads to, right? For me, and I've long championed this, as a small L libertarian, I disagree with the concept of income tax-based systems. I believe in more of a consumption tax-based system, like a sales tax, and I believe in the fair tax. If you're unfamiliar with the fair tax, I encourage you to familiarize yourself. Go to fairtax.org. I think that's a great resource of information. I won't go into the full story. I mean, maybe we can do. Frankly, I've been remiss that I've not done one of these shows before in Nashville, but I did them for years in Birmingham, where we had someone from the Fair Tax Organization on the show sometime before Income Tax Day in April, describing what the fair tax would do, the concept of embedded taxes, the concept of a consumption tax base, the concept of eliminating Social Security taxes, FICA taxes, income taxes, all on the federal level. I mean, you would literally not have any tax in the state of Tennessee. You wouldn't have anything. No income tax base. A little bit too little time to describe it now, but I would encourage you to look it up, and I think many of you would be. You have to be in tune with what embedded taxes cost the average consumer. You have to understand how tax systems work, and first and foremost, you have to understand that businesses and corporations do not pay taxes. They do not. All taxes are paid by the consumer anyway. And this is just being more upfront and direct with that concept from a national sales tax perspective, which is the fair tax. So I didn't mean to be flip with the caller. I didn't mean to be short with the caller. I disagree with child tax credits from the jump. I disagree with them specifically because they are being abused to the point where you're not getting taxes back. You're getting money not paid. And that is going against either my tax submission or it's going against the national debt, which is going to cripple our country at some point. I hope that makes sense. 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Becky says, Matt, I think it was Cameron Smith who was talking about it last week with the child tax credit. I mean, maybe so. Becky, you're much nicer than 4870. Becky said, I think it was Cameron Smith who was talking about it. 4870 said, it was probably that idiot Cameron. Yikes. Wow. He's my buddy. He's having a hard day, too. He's a Bama fan. Y'all be nice to him. 2565 says, I also disagree with the income tax. However, if I have to pay taxes, I like tax credits. That being said, I disagree with refundable tax credits. I believe tax credits should not result in a refund of more taxes than you have paid in. Well, if you can correct that system, then you might get me a little more on board with the child tax credit. I understand why people with children love the child tax credit because that means that money's coming back to you. But it encourages poor behavior, especially amongst people that don't pay. I mean, the last I saw, don't hold me specific to this figure, but the last I saw, it was 51% of the American population doesn't pay federal income taxes because they're just below the threshold. Or they're receiving enough refunds back with their child tax credits and whatnot that covers whatever amount of money they're actually paying. Cody is in Nashville with a thought on all of this. Hey, Cody. Hope you're doing well.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great, man.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you.
First, just want to give you a quick compliment. I absolutely love your show. I listen to 99.7 all the time, but your well-concluded objectivity is so refreshing. I really got to compliment you on all of your arguments. And I couldn't agree with you more on the income tax as opposed to the fair tax especially, but just the consumption tax. Absolutely perfect. Just want to give a quick example to some listeners who are maybe kind of got their wheels spinning on this a little bit. Let's say that we have an agreement between you and I give you 2 of my pencils in exchange for 1 of your pens. There's no income tax on that because you and I agree that that's an even trade. Nobody made any income, even trade. How is that any different than the 2 of us agreeing that I will give you an hour of my time for 20 of your dollars? That's an even trade. The only way that there's an income involved there is if you assume, or if the government assumes, that my time has no value in that exchange. So just wanted to submit that, on air and leave it up to you.
No, it's a great it's a great concept. I like the way you're thinking. Thank you, Cody, for the call. So Cody's, if I understand the analogy correctly, so one is a barter system and the other, money is a representation of barter. So the two systems are the same. So yeah, I don't have any disagreement with it. As I'm just trying to think it through. What is money, right? $100 bill is not worth $100 inherently. We assign value to that $100 bill. That assigned value is created through our recognition that it is a value of work. Money or income is a product of labor based on our goods or service, based on our system. So yeah, I don't take any exception with the concept. Chris is calling in from White House. Hello, Chris. I know another Chris that lives in White House, Chris.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That name's kind of popular around here.
At least two of them, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, go ahead. Let's talk that smack, sir, about them Georgia Bulldogs and that Fighting Irish this weekend or tomorrow.
Are you a drunken redhead? Is that who I'm talking to? No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. So you a Notre Dame man?
Depends on what weekend it is.
What about tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, probably about halfway into the game.
I might have a pop or two myself.
I think it's going to be one heck of a game tomorrow. They got us about 1.5 over y'all. You got to think this ain't your daddy's Georgia Bulldogs playing tomorrow.
Who's that defensive dude that y'all have out that's so good? Isn't there some defensive player that's out?
Yeah, we got one of our starters out, but we ain't worried about our starter. We ain't worried about our defensive. We worried about y'all being able to stop our run game. We got Riley Leonard, the quarterback, averaging over 70 yards a game. We got Jeremiah Love. He's hurdling people out there. He's taking 3 steps up in the air before he even touches the ground.
Is Leonard a pretty good passer too? I generally don't know. I don't know.
First of the year, he was not. He put a bad taste in our mouths, but after that loss to Northern Illinois, he picked it up and he started carrying the team. He owned up to, his faults and everything, and his passing game's on point now.
I'm not going to fall.
He's averaging 150 a game.
See, I wasn't going to bring up Northern Illinois because we lost to Ole Miss. So, we were going to call that a wash. Is that fair?
Hey, that is completely fair. At least we didn't lose to Vanderbilt.
Well, that's true. That's true. Neither of us lost. Look,
neither one of us.
You lose to Vandy, you don't get in the playoff. You don't lose to Vandy, look where we are. So.
Exactly.
Well, it should be. It should be a great game. I think the game comes down to whether Gunnar Stockton can show up. Honestly, I understand that y'all have a good defense, good enough that if our quarterback can't throw the football, y'all can key off on the run, right? That's obvious what you're going to do. You're going to stop the run and make us throw the ball on defense.
That's what we're going to try to do, and I hope that boy's got his bearings because he got his soul knocked out of him that last game.
And you know what he did? You know what he did, Chris?
He rallied the team.
He held on to the football. That's what he did. That's the main thing.
Yes, he did.
You lose your helmet, hold on to the ball.
He held on to it, and he rallied the team. So I give the boy props on it.
Well, listen, I understand if you win, you're going to call me Thursday. But win or lose, call me on Thursday and let's talk. It's going to be a heck of a game. And I love these helmet games, man. I love them. It reminds me of being a 7.5-year-old kid in 1980 watching Herschel Walker and the Georgia Dogs in the Sugar Bowl.
Oh, I love bring that up. I know we're 0 for 3 on y'all, but I think Tide's going to turn this year.
Well, Tide didn't turn today. Well, anyway, no, that's another subject for another day. I'm sorry.
No, Michigan got him. So, the SEC, you got Texas as a walk-in on the SEC this year. So,
Chris, you've got way too...
Georgia's about the only thing y'all got going for you.
Hold on a second. You've got way too Southern of an accent to be a Notre Dame fan. How did all this happen?
My sister used to live up near Mishawaka, up near Notre Dame. I used to go there and visit the campus.
Have you ever been to a game up there?
Yes, I have.
Oh, man. Now, see, I'm
It
jealous.
is great. If you ever get a chance to go to Notre Dame campus, you've got to go up there and you've got to see the cathedrals and all that. Trust me, it's awe-inspiring.
Have you ever heard about the diagonals in the end zones and why they're the way they are? There's 18 of them, and they're at a 42-degree angle.
Yeah, because they're all pointing to the cathedral.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, all of the lines in the end zone. They don't paint the end zones at Notre Dame. All of the lines in the end zone point to the cathedral over there, which is, the history of that stadium, the history of that campus. I've never been to a game, but I would love to go.
Well, let's try to meet up next year.
Let's do it. Well, let's do it. Well, Chris, we'll do that after Bulldogs win our third in 4 years. We'll make a plan. Okay.
Well, you just make sure y'all answer the phone when I call Thursday after we win.
We'll be. Thank you. None of that counts against our 3-minute. Everybody's accusing us of violating our 3-minute rule.
No, it doesn't count when the caller brings it up.
That's exactly right. When the caller initiates the football conversation, it does not count. Oh, golly. Love that. It is a great regret of mine that I did not go to Notre Dame in 2017, to South Bend in 2017. Georgia, glory, glory to Georgia, glory to Georgia, and to hell with Notre Dame. Yeah! All right, that's it. Let's go to break on Super Talk 99.7 WT. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy to talk to you about Grace Point Healthcare, affordable, convenient, and comprehensive medicine for you. I was so impressed when I met Dr. Rob and his team. They are a direct pay primary care provider, which means that all of your treatment decisions are made by you and the doctors that provide the medical care, not your insurance company. Whether you're paying by the visit or you enroll in the Smart Care plan from Grace Point Healthcare, you will always know you're getting exceptional care at an affordable price. Their basic Smart Care plan, as a matter of fact, is just $69 a month, which includes, listen up, all office visits, free office visits, and free basic labs and diagnostic testing. At Grace Point, there's no long wait times in the waiting room. At Grace Point, they are your primary provider, and they will treat your entire family from newborns to seniors. It's wintertime, folks, and you get cold, and you get flu, and you get all of those types of things that are associated with the winter, and you don't need weeks of delay if you're trying to schedule an appointment with your physician. At Grace Point, you're seen the same day or the next day, even with brand new patients. How do they do it? I don't know how they do it. All I know is that they do it. They're my healthcare provider, and I want them to be yours. Grace Point Healthcare. Friends, Grace Point is your one and only. Call today at 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule a visit today.
Another attack in the New York City subway. This story and more coming up at 4 on Super Token 99.7 WTN.
I mean, those attacks are bad, folks, and it's leading New York to attempt to take back their city. The People's Patrol, Guardian Angels.
But Daniel Penny went too far.
Oh, that's right. Right. Daniel Penny was the bad guy in all of that, according to Alvin Bragg and other officials in New York City. Sadly, the people of New York are finding their way to Guardian Angels. The New York City's Guardian Angels are resuming patrols in the city's subway system after a Guatemalan illegal alien allegedly burned a homeless, we saw what happened, burned a homeless strap hanger alive, killing her in the subway system December 22nd. Curtis Sliwa, and I've mentioned I've reached out to Curtis, and we've not heard back. Hopefully we can get him on later on in the week. He was and has been the head of the all-volunteer organization. He spoke at the Stillwell Avenue, Coney Island station in Brooklyn where the woman was killed and where the group's patrol said that they would start. 3-person patrols will now resume walking through the subway system through subway cars, which is something the police no longer do, said Sliwa. He reported hundreds of citizens had begged the organization's return as, sadly, the subway systems are out of control, as they were when he started the Guardian Angels some 35 or so, maybe even 40 years ago. I don't know exactly when it started. So that's good news. Sad that they have to do it, but good that they are doing it. More on this in a moment. Ken Weaver's newscast coming up. Plus, Congressman John Rose in the second hour of the Matt Murphy Show. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN on this Tuesday. Hang in there.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. It looks like a tree limb has fallen on some power lines in the area of Boulder Park Drive that has knocked power out in the Donaldson area. NES says it is working to restore that now, but can't give a timeline on when it will be restored there in Donaldson. Had another attack in the New York City subway today. This woman said a man pushed another man onto the tracks at the 18th Street station in Manhattan just after 1:30 local time.
Right at the last second, right in front of the train. Just shoved right in front of the train.
Yeah, the victim taken to Bellevue in critical condition. That other man is in custody. Meanwhile, New York City police identifying the woman burned alive on a subway train this month. 61-year-old Debrina Kawam of Toms River, New Jersey. Mayor Eric Adams said she had spent a brief time in the city's homeless shelter system and that authorities have been in touch with her next of kin.
People should not be living on our subway system. They should be in a place of care. And no matter where she lived, that should not have happened.
23 and a half years after the attacks of 9/11, the plotters won a battle in a military appeals court last night. The court allowing to go forward plea deals, which could allow Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 2 other defendants to avoid the death penalty. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin tried to block it, but the court sided with military defense lawyers who said he has no legal standing. Austin can take his challenge to a D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. President Trump is backing Mike Johnson for Speaker of the House when members vote on Friday, but Johnson can afford to lose only 1 or 2 Republican votes. Tennessee Congressman Scott Desjardins telling WTN's Chad Benson today.
Right now, Mike Johnson's our guy, and we need to get everybody lined up. We need to get him voted in. Trump's got executive orders lined up on day one. We've got immigration reform on day one. We've got so many things that the people voted for and what I would call a mandate that we need to get this going.
Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett says he's going to wait until Friday to decide. Tennessee Congressman John Rose going to tell us what he thinks coming up this hour. Happy New Year in other parts of the world. Fireworks and the music of ABBA's recording of Happy New Year in Nairobi, Kenya. Here in Nashville, downtown's preparing for 200,000 revelers to watch the free concert headlined by Keith Urban and Jelly Roll. The Red Music Note drop Channel 4 says one of the organizations helping to keep people safe is Red Frogs.
So we have this chill out zone where you can come, press pause, kind of regather, maybe even regroup with friends, get together with friends and kind of have a meeting point. We're able to charge your phone to make sure that you can order that Uber to get home safely, or, maybe just, take a break.
Just look for the Red Frog tents tonight. Gates open at 5 there at Bicentennial Mall. And that's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, just picked up a new crash. This is going to be 65 southbound at Armory Drive. The right lane is blocked. And then over by the airport, the right lane blocked 40 eastbound by a crash right there before Briley Parkway. That's exit 215. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. Welcome back. It's hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WT, and you can find us in a lot of places. And I appreciate every single one of you listening or viewing the program as you do. We thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, for those asking me, watching on Super Talk TV, this is my Lebowski sweater.
I love it.
It's an official Lebowski.
Is it?
Yeah, I got 2 sources of movie entertainment on today. You notice the other one? You know what this is?
Oh, Say Ferris.
Say Ferris, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so I got a little Say Ferris underneath the Lebowski sweater. I was a little worried about the Lebowski sweater because it can get a bit hot under the lights, but we're doing okay so far. I might have to bust out this window before the show's over. There's Chris Webber. He's behind the glass. Behind him in News Closet B, that's Ken Weaver delivering headlines. We were anticipating a conversation with John Rose, and I think John is running late. His man Dylan is checking on Congressman Rose, who should be here at any moment. Until then, you and I on the phone, 615-737-9986 if you so desire. 615-737-9986. You can also hit us up on the Super text line, we'd love to hear from you on this last day of 2024, moving on into 2025. I don't know. I think 2024 was pretty good. I mean, it had its ups, it had its downs, but, I mean, the biggest, for me, the biggest bonus of 2024 was November 5th, right? I mean, I can't hate on it. You know, all's well that ends well. So as much of an issue as we saw with inflation, as much as an issue as we saw with interest rates and domestic side policy and the disastrous Biden administration and the assassination attempts against Donald Trump and all of the rest, all's well that ends well in 2024. What say you? 615-737-9986. I've been doing this for a long time, and now some in the mainstream media have picked up on it with the death of Jimmy Carter. I've been telling you for a long time, Joe Biden is our modern-day Jimmy Carter. The comparisons are undeniable. And now others in media circles are starting to pick up on this. And if you agree with me that Joe Biden is Jimmy Carter and Jimmy Carter is Joe Biden, that means Donald Trump is both Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan, which is kind of cool. Richard Nixon was doing great things in his first term. Richard Nixon, I mean, there was some negative, but there was a lot of good, at least my reading of history. This is before my time on planet Earth, right? I was born in 1973. I was born, I want to say, fact check me, Weber. When did Richard Milhouse Nixon announce his resignation from the presidency of the United States of America? August
8th.
1974?
4, yes.
Yeah. So I was less than a year old when I will be leaving the office of the presidency as of 12 o'clock tomorrow. And gave the big V signs outside of the chopper. And of course, Gerald Ford takes over. Gerald Ford, the only president of the United States never elected to any nation. I mean, he was never elected to any national or statewide office. I don't think he was elected statewide. I mean, he was a House of Representatives member, made his bones with the Warren Commission, made his name with the Warren Commission, and then Spiro Agnew had to leave the vice presidency, so he did not run on the Richard Nixon ticket. Spiro Agnew resigned as vice president, and Gerald Ford was appointed. I think I have my history right here. Gerald Ford was appointed to the vice presidency. And then obviously he became president of the United States of America at the time that Richard Nixon resigned that office. And so he was never elected to any national, and I don't think statewide office, because I think I'm right that he was a congressman. That said, before my time, but Richard Nixon, in my reading of history, had a lot of good things happening with foreign policy engagement. He engaged China, which could be for good or bad. But he had a lot of things going on with the energy policy that he attempted to create. Now, he did some bad things. He attempted price controls and a couple of other things that were disastrous, that didn't work in the early 1970s. All of that to say, Donald Trump kind of becomes both. You know, if you understand the relationship that Richard Nixon had with the mainstream media during his term in office, then you can kind of understand the overlay that I'm making with Donald Trump and his relationship with the national media. And then Donald Trump now becomes, after the disaster of the last 4 years, our saving grace in terms of national politics. It's morning again in America. Let's hope. So as bad as 2024 could have been, and I would have a lot different feelings if Donald Trump had not won the presidency on November 5th, the 47th presidency of on the 5th of November. What say you? 615-737-9986. Sharon is in Fayetteville. Hey, Sharon, how are you?
Hi, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
About Doge. Let's have this scenario. Let's say that in 4 years the liberals take the presidency and that they like Doge and they want their own Doge to use in sinister ways, another outlet for giving money to their supporters. Maybe if they have the House, they can say, well, we need this and we don't think it's useless spending, or we need these regulations because we feel they're necessary, and open up, like I said, a can of worms, a new outlet for giving money. That's my question.
So if I understand your question, I think it's predicated on, Sharon, the idea that the Department of Government Efficiency is not a funded department within the government. So they don't receive they don't receive any money.
That's right. They're not getting paid.
Right. And Elon, and so they are sort of you look at them as like a task force or a blue ribbon commission, or a panel, right? Their focus is to assist the President of the United States in identifying places where we can cut wasteful government spending or needless government programs. So I guess the nature of your question is then, how could Democrats use that for evil?
Yeah, that's my question.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know that they can. The best that they could do is just say that it was all a dog and pony show and dismiss it. I've seen them, media types, media elitists, and Democrats alike, suggest that there is really no waste in government, which is laughable, of course. But.
Of course. It's supposed to last for 2 years.
Right, and make recommendations to the President of the United States as to what programs could be totally eliminated.
And I believe that the House has to vote on it, right?
Well, yeah, whatever recommendations are made to the President of the United States, he has to, if it's an executive branch program, I think he might have a certain amount of latitude to eliminate the program himself. Or I don't know that he can necessarily unilaterally defund it, because funding ultimately comes from Congress. So it would take it. So any recommendation made by DOJ ultimately has to go through the halls of Congress to initiate action on those recommendations.
Okie doke. I thank you for. I had this little concern gnawing at me, and you cleared it up.
Well, yeah, thank you, Sharon, for the call, and thank you for always listening. I do appreciate you so much. I don't begrudge you concern about how down the road the liberal elitists in D.C. might try to use these things to their own advantage. Right now, the Department of Government Efficiency is solely focused on, and by that, it's not an actual department. It does not get funded. The last thing you would want is to add to government inefficiency by creating a department to deal with government inefficiency, right? That seems to be somewhat counterintuitive. Right now, they are focused on identifying those things which the government ought not to be funding, which the government has not authorized for many, many years, yet we still fund. It is sad to say, but once a federal government program exists, it is it's a heavy lift to get it to cease to exist. It is I've long said this, conceptually, one of the reasons that conservatives / libertarians have so much trouble is you are fighting against individuals that use other people's money that buy votes. That's first and foremost. So if there's one candidate telling you, oh, I'll do this, I'll take care of that, whatever it is. Oh, you want the Bulldogs to beat Notre Dame? We'll take care of that for you. We're from the government, and we're here to help. Oh, you want this pothole fixed? Oh, that's fine. We're from the government. We're here to help. Oh, you want a child tax credit? We'll take care of that. Oh, you want this or that or the other thing? If you've got any problem in your life, we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. We'll fully fund that program. That's the side of free money, free money, free money. The other side, also asking for votes, is looking at those same people and saying, that's not the government's job, sir, ma'am. Or that's not the federal government's job. Or that's your own personal responsibility. It's a reality. It is also in the nature of any government to grow. It is the natural nature of government. Any government devised by any man, any set of human beings on planet Earth ever, it is the natural state of that government to grow. And so you have to push back against natural forces to prevent government growth. Just growth. Now, forget about telling people that it's not the responsibility of the federal government to educate our children. I would make an argument, and I can make an argument, and I understand that there's a legitimate argument on the other side of this, so I get that this is a bit more controversial. But I could make an argument to you that it's not the responsibility of government to educate your kids at all. So we are fighting against natural forces in government, just any government devised by any set of human beings on planet Earth ever. Secondarily, you have one group of politicians telling the American people, or a subset of the American people, be it the voters of the state of Tennessee or the voters of the state of California or the voters of a municipality or a local district, you have one set of government officials saying, you can eat all the ice cream you want to eat, and you'll never get fat. And another set of government officials saying, you know what, sometimes you got to eat veggies, and if you keep eating that ice cream, you're going to get fat, and there will be consequences. Well, nobody wants to hear about that, especially when we're not feeling the consequences of our bloated government debt right now. I could talk about the government debt and my frustration, my anger, and my fear of where it's going to lead every radio show that I do from now to the end of time, and it does no good because people don't feel it. 95% of you, and maybe even more than that, would call my radio show and tell me, you're right, Murphy, we got to do something about it. And you don't vote for it. You don't vote to do anything about it. And let me challenge you, and this is gonna upset some of you. I didn't hear anybody talking about it when FEMA was coming to town and handed out free money. But that's what we're talking about, right? So 95% of certainly conservative Americans and the vast majority of Americans at large recognize that our $36 trillion national debt is going to cripple this country at some point. But when you go to the polls, nobody votes for it. And when conservatives take over power, at least in my lifetime, when conservatives have the White House and the House and the Senate, they don't balance the budget either. They just spend on their pet programs and their pet subsidy and their pet projects. That's what DOGE is here to stop, or at least that's the concept. And let's see if it happens. I have an adjusted ETA for Congressman John Rose. He has apparently he was on I-24. No, I don't know if that's true or not, but he is stuck and late in traffic, and our new ETA is 4:30. 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So there you go. We'll get to John's call, your calls as well. It's 20 minutes after 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Another attack on the New York City subway. We'll tell you about it at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Anticipating Congressman Rose coming up just after 4:30 now, adjusted time on Super Talk. Happy New Year. Hope everybody's having a good New Year's Eve so far. We will dive into your plans for the evening. I am very curious if anyone in our listening audience, and we have literally thousands of people listening to us right now, believe it or not, if anyone in our listening audience is planning on heading on down to Bicentennial Park, how much would it take? Wait, don't tell me, because this is a question in getting to know you at 5:30. How much would it take Ken Weaver? How much would it take Chris Webber to go down and be a part of the festivities at Bicentennial Park?
Here's a hint for my answer. You ain't got enough on you.
Well, I figured that.
30 years. Give me back 30 years.
30, yeah. Put me down there at 24, 23 years old. I'm all in. I'd even wear some of those adult diapers if I had to. They do that in New York. Y'all know that? I don't think at Bicentennial Park, but in New York they do that.
Well, they probably got to, man.
There's
They'll
nowhere
get killed if they go into a porta potty.
Nowhere else to go, man. Nowhere else to go. John is in Nash. Wants to talk about Project 2025. It says, "Hey, John, how are you?"
All right, thanks. How you doing?
I'm great, John. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I got a lot of liberal friends who they're the only ones I ever hear talk about this. And I was just wondering, is there such a thing, or is this something that the communists have made up to scare people? And if you want to listen off the air.
Well, you can listen on or off the air. I tell you what, stay right there, John, because you might have an additional question. You ready? It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy.
Okay.
Are you familiar with an organization called the Heritage Foundation?
Yes.
Right. So they're a conservative think tank, as they're called, in Washington, D.C. It's a right-wing policy group that comes up with policy recommendations, and then they feed those policy recommendations to like-minded congressional leaders in the hopes that those congressional leaders see value in those policy recommendations and then take them up. Project 2025 was a collection of all of their wish list for all of their policy recommendations. So it's a huge conservative think tank wish list that has nothing to do with Donald Trump and doesn't really have anything to do with any elected leadership, except that, some in elected power like it. Some in elected power like some of the proposals and not others. I mean, I've read Project 2025, and I like some of the stuff, and some of the stuff it's a non-starter for me.
Yeah.
But it is never going to be presented as like a blanket omnibus package that Congress tries to pass, ever.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year to you, too. What liberals tried to do is turn it into the boogeyman. And if you understand the way people think, you guys currently listening to this radio show and to this radio station, whether it's Dan Mandis or Chris Hand, Chad Benson, myself, Brian Wilson before me, Phil Valentine before him, you're the smartest listening audience on planet Earth. I don't say that to suck up to you. I say that because it's true. Because I don't expect you to agree with me just because I take a position on something. I want you to think for yourself. I want you to take a position that is based on your life experience, your personal values, your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience, and whatever ideological position that you've taken on any number of political issues. I expect you to think for yourself, right? Look, if you agree with me 100% of the time, there's something wrong with you because I'm a little crazy. That said, the political left plays against the stupidity of the audience that they serve. And not everybody in America is as smart as you on these issues. So they tried to do it with Donald Trump himself, calling him Adolf Hitler. Calling him literally Hitler, like the reincarnation of Hitler himself. And they said that he was an authoritarian and that he was a megalomaniac and he was a totalitarian and that democracy would die if Donald Trump got reelected. And none of that seemed to be working. And so they looked at this Project 2025 that they know nobody on their side really knows about. And they know that most of America won't bother to research. And they decided, we can take this and we can take out of the 900 pages of Project 2025, we can find what we're allowed to cherry pick out of that 900 pages and vilify it and turn this into evil, which is what they tried to do. And so they ran out, Project 2025. They want to, it's Handmaid's Tale. Women aren't allowed to work. Abortions aren't allowed, on all of this kind of stuff. And it didn't work because they knew that most Americans wouldn't do the research in order to verify whether or not they're telling the truth, which they weren't. Good call, though. Heather's going. We'll talk to Heather in a moment. Heather says she's going tonight to the big Bicentennial Park event. Hey, Ken, before you do the news, I got a question for Ken Weaver.
What is it, Brother Murphy?
I know you got the news coming up, but Ken, hey, what that red note drop you've been talking about?
Yeah.
Chris and I want to know what time's that? What time's that happen?
Right before midnight.
So it's happening right around midnight.
Yeah, right before it.
Is that when they do it every year?
Yeah.
That's weird. Okay, well, there you go. And now the more you know. It's 4:31 on Super Talk.
It's all in the details, boys. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. We've had another attack on the New York City subway today. This woman describes the moments leading up to one man shoving another onto the tracks right in front of an oncoming train.
The older man who was pushed just walked slowly right onto the platform, perfect timing, The other man who pushed him was just walking slowly towards him and shoved him the last second.
Victims in critical condition, the suspect in custody. Meanwhile, Mayor Eric Adams revealed the identity of the woman who was burned alive earlier this month as 61-year-old Debrina Kawam of Toms River, New Jersey. He says she had spent some time there at the city's shelters, and they are right now in contact with her family there in New Jersey. Plea deals agreed to by prosecutors and the 9/11 plotters that could spare them the death penalty now back on track following an appeals court ruling yesterday. This is a military appeals court. The deals negotiated over 2 years, then announced last summer, would have Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 2 other defendants plead guilty, but Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin appealed to try to block it. A military court last night agreed with defense lawyers who argued Austin has no legal standing. And here in Nashville, starting tomorrow, Metro Water Services raises its rates. Officials say this 2.6% increase will help pay for infrastructure upgrades, help keep your water safe. Channel 4's Brendan Tierney.
Metro Water says the rates are based on how much water you use. And even with this increase, though, 2 gallons of water coming out of the tap will only cost you around a penny. The Metro Action Commission, just like they do for electric and gas, has resources to help people pay these higher bill prices.
And we're just hours away from Nashville's big New Year's Eve bash at Bicentennial Mall. 200,000 revelers there on the 11 acres. Expected to take in the free concerts headlined by Keith Urban ahead of the famous Red Note drop at midnight. It's already 2025 in other parts of the world. That was New Zealand as the clock hit midnight there. And that's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, we've got 2 crashes on Charlotte Pike. One is just east of Davidson Drive. The other one just west of Osceola Avenue. 70 south, west of Sawyer Brown Road in Bellevue, got a crash reported by police. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Show. Really just our first week officially being a part of your afternoon drive home. We thank you for being a part of ours. At 4:38, we appreciate you and hope that everything's going well for you on the roadways. And it's our last day of the year. We'll be off tomorrow. I assume, Mr. Weber, there will be some semblance of a best of tomorrow.
Something like that.
Something like that? Okay. Yeah. And then we're back on Thursday. We are pleased and proud, without further ado, to welcome into our studios Congressman John Rose. A lot of times you hear John on our telephone. Occasionally you see him in studio. And we just, the meeting of the minds, we had an opportunity with John to stop by our studios to talk to us about what we can anticipate with the 119th Congress. And here he is. Hello, Congressman.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me on the drive. Is that still
Well, we're not the drive anymore, but we Brian Wilson kind of parked the drive, and we're just now we call it the Matt Murphy Show.
Oh, that's a good name.
We thought it was convenient. So, but well, thank you for stopping by. Well, look, let's get to it. I mean, I might as well let's not hold off on the major question. Who's going to be our Speaker of the House, John?
As much so as I can know, I think it'll be Mike Johnson, and I think that's the right answer, and I think that's the best answer for the country, and I think it's the best answer for President Trump and implementing President Trump's vision for America.
So, he put a lot of the ballyhoo to bed when he came out and said, listen, I endorse Mike Johnson. This is the best way forward. I felt like, whatever consternation or concerns that some members of Congress have about leadership, we're certifying a president of the United States. We're swearing in a new president. We're swearing in a new Congress. I don't know that now is the time not to give Speaker Johnson an opportunity to lead you with a Republican-led Senate with the knowledge that we can actually get things to the president's desk.
I think that's exactly right. I think it's this simple. The people of this country gave the president a mandate last November, and under the circumstances, an overwhelming victory. They gave us control of the House and control of the Senate, but we can only make all that work if we stick together and play as a team. And so for me, it's that simple. Our coach is Donald Trump, and the American people gave him a mandate, and we need to all play the calls that he, play the plays that he calls.
So I don't know how well you know Congressman Massey. He's been one of the most vocal opponents and voices against Speaker Johnson. Can you help us understand the frustrations or the concerns that some have led by Congressman Massey regarding Speaker Johnson?
Sure. So I can consider Thomas Massey to be a good friend, and we have a good relationship, and we've worked together on things. And, one of the early things I did was to go and object when we were having a $20 billion disaster bill go through when we were having a pro forma session of Congress, something that I think should never happen. And Thomas showed up to kind of be my wingman for that.
Mm-hmm.
And you might say to make sure I followed through with what I had pledged to do there. We developed a real rapport about that. And he is a man of great principle and brilliant in so many ways. But with all due respect, I think he is letting perfect be the enemy of good.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, we've got a very slim majority in both the House and, frankly, in the Senate, too. And so if we're going to get things done, we've all got to stick together. And that means it's not going to be exactly the way John Rose would do it, exactly the way Thomas Massey would do it. But neither one of us got elected president of the United States like Donald Trump did. And so for me, I'm not saying that I will always go in lockstep with everything the president says, but I give him the benefit of the doubt. And I think until somehow that becomes not the right thing to do, I think that's what the American people have asked for.
For those in our audience that have concerns about Mike Johnson as the leader of the House of Representatives, they tell me that their concern is with regard to how we've done our budgets. I mean, I primarily hear about these CRs, continuing resolutions, and not splitting up the budget bills in the appropriate fashion and not really doing budgets in the fashion that they were supposed to be done in the history of our country. Do you share those concerns, and what can you say to those who have them about how things will be different in the 119th Congress?
Well, absolutely. I share those concerns, and I very much believe that in this last Congress, this past year, during this year that we're in, we got very close to getting it done right. Now, we skipped a step that's very important, which is that we did not pass a budget, and that is a great source of frustration for me. We will have to do that in the coming Congress if we want to make the advances that we can by taking advantage of reconciliation. We could get off into the weeds and talk about why that's so. But this year, our Appropriations Committee subcommittees passed all the appropriations bills out through committee and to the House floor. We got, I think, 7 of the 12 across the finish line in the House. And frankly, we should have passed the others. Now, I will tell you, they were not perfect. There were plenty of things to not be happy with. But I thought we should have passed them really before the end of July, because it would have put us in the House in a position of being able to come home for the August recess, the August district work period, if you want to be more precise, and be able to say for 6 weeks while we were home during that time, we've gotten our work done, and it's on the Senate to do their work. Now, those bills were never going to become law just exactly like we would have passed them through the House, but we had some House members who thought they're not perfect. We want to continue to debate them, et cetera. And as a result, we didn't get the job done, which then put us in the position where we are in panel. And I think them offering solutions that otherwise probably we wouldn't ever get the light of day, that's very encouraging. And having 2 brilliant people who've been very successful in the things they've done in life leading the effort, I think it all bodes well. It's taken us a long time to dig the hole we're in, and to institutionalize the bad choices that we keep making in Congress. And so it's going to take some time to work our way out of that. We can't, you can use all the metaphors and analogies that we've heard in the past, but it takes some time to turn these things around. And so we've got to learn to put one foot in front of the next and take wins when we can get them, moving in the right direction. And I think that's what I would counsel to all of my colleagues who are expressing, skepticism about Speaker Johnson. I am absolutely convinced, from knowing him from well before he had any idea that he might ever get to be Speaker. And I think that's safe to say. I think Speaker Johnson would tell you that. I think most everybody in Congress would tell you that the reason he emerged as the consensus a year and a half ago was because no one saw him as having this overriding ambition to get to be Speaker. Now, he was in leadership, and so he had ambition, and he's a very capable, smart guy and very articulate.
Is it unfair when Congressman Massey compares him to Paul Ryan?
Yes. I think that's
help people understand.
Because I think Speaker Johnson is absolutely committed to the vision that Donald Trump has laid out for turning this country around. I don't think he questions the motives of President Trump or the methods that Trump has laid out, the path that President Trump has laid out. And I think Speaker Ryan absolutely did not buy into that.
Mm-hmm. So Friday comes. Let's put on our prognostication hats. I mean, I said earlier in the show, John, and I'm curious if you agree, that I think most most Republicans, not all Republicans are necessarily that conservative, but Republicans understand that we need to get a speaker fairly quickly. We need a certification to happen Monday the 6th. So I would anticipate maybe a first vote, and there's perhaps a kind of a pro forma disruption vote, or I called it a show pony vote, where you might have 6 or 8 or 10 Republicans defecting and voting in their own way. I expect that Massey will stick to his guns. What do you expect out of Friday?
I really don't know. If you had asked me 2.5 weeks ago, I would have expected that enough people will get in line, which means we only lose 1 or 2,
right? And
that we would elect Johnson. And I hope, with the clear signal that Trump has given yesterday, that that's what happens. Will some folks game the system here, either because of honest, sincere beliefs that they think there's a better way, or because they're hoping to gain something? I don't know. If I had not been through everything I've been through in the last 2 years, I would have said, I think we'll all get in line and we'll do what needs to be done. I would say this, we need to be the listeners all across this country who have representatives who are expressing doubt. They need to be communicating as loudly as they can to make clear that everyone understands, that's in a position like I am, that President Trump was given a mandate, and we want him to have the tools and the players on the field that can execute the plays that he calls.
And just in the spirit of that sort of clarity, John Rose is voting for.
Absolutely.
You're voting for Mike Johnson.
I am.
So,
and I would go one step further and tell you, I don't think it's obvious at all, or that there is anyone that's ready to be
and no one, and I would know.
Opposition.
I mean, to my knowledge, tell me if I'm wrong, John. Has anyone else offered their name for consideration?
No.
In the, I mean, obviously Hakeem Jeffries will get plenty of votes from the Democrat Party, but I don't know of any Republican that's offered their name as an alternative.
I think that's right. And I think this is the moment for Republicans. And even though, again, we might all have our own design on how we could do this or that a little bit better, the truth is President Trump has announced who he wants to be Speaker. And I think those of us in the House who've seen Speaker Johnson operate, and it's not a trivial matter that you've kind of established yourself. So we've been through that pain over the last year of having to see Johnson come in midstream and try to set up the Speaker's office and operate, and we paid a penalty for that. We can't pay that penalty again if we're going to implement the Trump agenda for America.
Congressman John Rose is with us in studio. It's 10 minutes until 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Quick timeout. Be back after this.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about Spice and Easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Another vicious attack on the New York City subway. We'll tell you about it at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I have begged of Congressman John Rose to stick around a little past the 5 o'clock hour. I picked on him, I said, because he was horribly late. No, it's not your fault. It's Nashville traffic. Can you do something about this, John? I mean, can you use your heavy influence? By the way, I'm going to tell tales out of school. I went to get John downstairs, and I said, John, where's your entourage? He goes, I am my entourage. So that's pretty good. Congressman John Rose is in with us in studio discussing a variety of items. Let me put this to bed, because I think this matter has somewhat been put to bed, but it blew up in terms of conversation regarding H-1B visas. For me, John, it was... it's an issue that perhaps needs to be tackled. It's a question that needs to be asked. Are too many companies overutilizing or abusing the H-1B system? My thought is I'm much more focused and concerned about illegal immigration, first and foremost, and the southern border security. If we need to deal with H-1B, fine. We can chew bubblegum and walk at the same time. But the big issue is at the southern border. What do you say?
Absolutely agree. There are probably a vast array of places where our immigration laws could be improved and tweaked and made better. But when you've got millions of people walking across the southern border that's just been wide open, those are like, that's like worrying about a gnat when there's, a log in your eye. So
Right.
we need to focus on that problem of getting the border under control, which I think you see the president making great strides at making sure that our neighbors get serious about this. And so I applaud him for that. And I think then getting the border wall back underway. But largely it will be just about the administration having a serious attitude toward getting the southern border under control and then dealing with the mess, the true just colossal mess that the Biden administration is leaving us with as a country. And so there'll be time to get to things like H-1B visas where there probably should be some adjustments made. But we should all remember that almost all the people coming in with H-1B visas are the kinds of people we want coming to our country.
Mm-hmm.
And we accept literally 1 million plus legal immigrants every year, and we need them in this country. And the country is more than able to absorb them and find jobs. And if they want to come here and be part of the American dream, we should let them. And so that's probably not at the top of the list of things we need to tackle.
Congressman John Rose is going to be with us for one more segment right after the top of the hour news with Ken Weaver, which is happening right now on Super Talk 99.7 WT. And by the way, I should note, if you want to throw questions John's way, you can do so on the Super Text line, 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. Any question for the congressman, and I'll forward it to him in just a moment. It's the Matt Murphy Show. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Happy New Year.
Five o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Looking at windy conditions with 40 degrees tonight, right about the time that big red music note drops. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Another attack on the New York City subway today. This woman witnessed a man push another man onto the tracks at the 18th Street station in Chelsea.
Right at the last second, right in front of the train. Just shoved right in front of the train.
Victim is in critical condition. The other man is in custody. Mayor Eric Adams spoke today after police released the identity of the woman who was burned alive earlier this month.
She resided in New Jersey. She had a brief stint in our homeless shelter system, our shelter system. And, our hearts goes out to the family, a horrific incident to have to live through.
61-year-old Debrina Kawan of Toms River, New Jersey, was asleep when police say a legal immigrant from Guatemala, Sebastian Zapata, intentionally set her on fire. He will be arraigned on murder charges January 7th. A military appeals court has upheld a deal the accused plotters of 9/11 made with prosecutors. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin sought to block the deal, which was announced last summer. But the military appeals court last night agreed with defense lawyers who said the defense secretary has no legal standing. So Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 2 other defendants' agreement to plead guilty to avoid the death penalty is back on track. Tennessee Congressman John Rose in studio with WTN's Matt Murphy says he'll vote to keep Mike Johnson Speaker of the House when members gather on Friday.
They gave us control of the House and control of the Senate, but we can only make all that work if we stick together and play as a team. And so for me, it's that simple. Our coach is Donald Trump, and the American people gave him a mandate, and we need to all play the calls that he, play the plays that he calls.
Congressman Scott Desjardins says he's voting for Johnson. Congressman Tim Burchett says he'll decide on Friday. Happy New Year already in other parts of the world. That's what it sounded like in Dubai. Fireworks at the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building. Here in Nashville, 200,000 expected at Bicentennial Park for the Red Music Note drop. Gates open at 5. In fact, they're just opening now for the free concert, headlined by Keith Urban and Jelly Roll. Channel 4 says the Red Frogs, one of the organizations that'll help revelers, just like they did during the 4th of July and CMA Fest.
Look, it's been a big year for Red Frogs here in Nashville. And, it started, CMA Fest. We handed out 33,000 cups of water. We charged 1,888 phones. And, it's all about helping people be safe as they come to Nashville.
Now, just look for the Red Frog tents tonight if you need a place to charge your phone, get a bottle of water, or regroup with family and friends. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Interstates are pretty clear. However, I do see one problem right now on Briley Parkway. This is going to be just north of Lebanon Pike. You've got some debris blocking 2 northbound lanes and the left shoulder. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, halfway home on this December 31. Happy New Year's Eve. Happy New Year to all of you listening. We appreciate every single one of you. I hope your ride home is going well. If you're just off work, perhaps you're one of the few that are actually at it today. We appreciate you listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN and the Matt Murphy Show. I wish that the last 5 minutes of conversation between John Rose and I were actually on the air. We just kind of, Congressman John Rose of the 6th Congressional District is in with us. By the way, I misidentified you. Why do I constantly flip you and Desjardins? I don't know why I flip your district numbers, but I do. But you are the 6th Congressional District.
That's right.
In the great state of Tennessee. And thank you for sticking around with us a little while longer.
Thank you. And let me say, in case I don't get to say this, it's a great honor, the greatest honor and privilege of my life to represent the people of Tennessee in the U.S. House.
How did you, I don't know that you and I have ever talked about this. Now it seems as good a time as any. I mean, how did you come about deciding to run for public office?
Well, I can remember this as almost as clearly as any memory in my life. My wife and I were walking out on a country road along our farm, and I was just venting about everything that was upsetting me with respect to how the Congress was working with President Trump. This is in 2017. And she's like, well, you got to do something about it. And I said, well, I am. You know, I support these candidates. I'm involved, et cetera, et cetera. And she's like, no. You can't phone it in. You've got to do something. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, you got to run. And so that really started the process of thinking about that. And that's what ultimately led to me running for Congress in 2018, got elected, thankfully. And
all credit goes to your wife, or blame, depending on how much someone likes John Rose.
And that depends on whether she's mad at me for not being at home, and then I'm blaming, and if something good's happening, and I'm giving her the credit.
Well, you know, a lot expected of the 119th Congress, obviously. I want to finish up this H-1B conversation because, I understand that the world of agriculture probably doesn't deal as much with H-1Bs because of those are, more skilled labor positions. But, you're on the Ag Committee. I mean, you are as invested in the farming community as any congressman that I know. And I'm interested your thought on this concept that we need more Americans doing these types of jobs. There is, for rightly or wrongly, there is a common belief that Americans won't do agricultural labor any longer. And I wonder what you think we can do to incentivize more Americans getting back into those communities. And is there a need for migrant labor in the ag community?
So I'll start with the last question first and say, yes, there's a need for migrant labor. We do need to solve this is one of those little problems that we need to solve, is this idea of birthright to citizenship needs to be solved if we're going to have any of these temporary worker programs, because then that creates anchor situations and problems that crop up that you have to deal with. So it's assuming we could solve that, and I think President Trump has proposed taking that away, which I think we should take away. But we do need migrant labor. At least we need the access to it, in my view, to get the job done in agriculture. And what's probably the biggest indicator of that is that the U.S. in the last 4 years under President Biden has become a net importer of food, of agricultural commodities. And that's ridiculous. There's no need for that at all. But part of the reason is because of the lack of access to labor in this country. And so you've seen the fruit and vegetable markets, nuts, and all those things move offshore, move south of the border in California and into Mexico and other places, because we just don't have the labor here. And the Biden administration has put in place all these restrictions that have made it impossible for us to produce those products in the U.S., not because we can't, but because we don't have the labor to harvest the crops. And so, but I'm also of the opinion that there is no job that Americans won't do. They're just very responsive to economic stimulus and so incentives. And so if they're not paid well enough to make those jobs make sense, then they won't do them. Or if we, through all of the panoply of government programs, are discouraging people from being in the workforce, and I think that's the thing that's probably the biggest factor, is that we pay too many people not to work in this country, and we've got to get over that. When you're $36 trillion plus in debt, you can't continue. You can't have the luxury of keeping able-bodied Americans on the sidelines.
I mean, is there a way to do both, where we're paying consistent with what American workers would expect, eliminate some of those programs, obviously, but then make sure that the American citizen is taken care of first in terms of being in the front of the line to fill those roles and those jobs?
I think there are ways to deal with that. I think I'm a big believer in free economies, and so I think that would get sorted out. I think we've just got too much government interference in those places. And so, I think if we solve some of those fundamental problems, which I think that's part of the burden of getting our spending and our debt under control, is to we need every able-bodied American incentivized to work and to be productive. And that turns out not only is it good for the economy, it's good for those people.
Along the lines of an agricultural discussion, I'm curious, I don't think you and I have talked about this. There is a common belief that the government subsidizes our farmers too much, and that creates a disincentive to the farming community itself. And I'm very curious your thoughts on that concept.
I don't think you would find a single farmer in this country who would say that they would rather the government be completely out of agriculture. But we made this decision, and we could go through this all afternoon. The rest of the show, we could talk about this. I studied agricultural economics in undergraduate and got a master's degree in ag econ. So I used to think about these things all the time, that as a
I see you. I asked the question and you light up. I see it.
And so, the truth is we kind of took a major step in the Depression era where the government, the U.S. government, decided we wanted food to be plentiful, available, and cheap. And we put in place a complex array of programs where the government is like inextricably interwoven with the agricultural community. And what that does is it creates the certainty that there'll be available food supply for the American citizenry and that it will be affordable. But it also, in the long run, depresses the economic returns for agriculture. And so that's the problem that then creates the necessity to provide assistance to farmers. To put it another way, if you're going to limit how expensive food can become by the government kind of having their finger in the situation, then you've got to make up for the top side, the upside. You've got to make up for on the downside.
So, but I mean, generally speaking, and I understand specifically that it's interwoven into the ag community to the point that we can't just strip it away. But generally speaking, is that conservative government?
Well, I think it's a fair question, and I think that interference. I would still argue that today agriculture is the most perfectly competitive marketplace in the country, where you have large numbers of buyers and sellers with relatively equal information. All the assumptions of a free market, they are more in play and operable in the agricultural community than anywhere else. But the government is interfering, and that interference ultimately leads to the problems that we see economically for farmers to make it. And we have then, what has really complicated that even more is that you get kind of then the ideological interest in small farms, and that we're going to somehow keep the little guy going, even if that's not the economically viable path. Farms have become very efficient, and very big farms are more efficient than smaller farms in most cases. Mm-hmm. And they're not corporate farms. They may be incorporated, but these are largely individuals who, may have incorporated their farm because it is a good business decision to do so. But these aren't like multinationals that are producing our food for the most part. It's still individual farmers across this country that are primarily driving agriculture.
Based on your answer, it's a natural chain of thought. It doesn't really have anything to do with what you were talking about, but I'm curious, this idea of foreign nationals or foreign entities being able to buy land in America. I know Senator Marsha Blackburn was talking about this issue with what she believed Chinese nationals coming in and being able. What are your thoughts on the idea of foreign entities buying our land?
I think it generally is only a concern if the location of those properties that they're buying somehow are sensitive. Mm-hmm. If you think about that, farm property is still here. And we can tax it.
They're not going to move it over, right?
Exactly. Now, there are some concerns with what are they doing on their property, even if they're not using it to surveil a military base that's nearby, if they are engaged in illegal activity or they're using it as a base of operations for disruptive activities. Those are all things that we should be concerned about. But I think, and we should also be concerned about parity or reciprocity with respect to what we can do and what they can do. So what I would say about the Chinese, if they want to be able to buy land here, they have to change their laws so that they are reciprocally allowing us to buy buy property in their country. Now, who would want to do that? I don't know, because we wouldn't trust.
Little villa in Beijing. It'd be nice.
Yeah, exactly. So because it's not a free country,
Right.
I would suggest you probably don't want to buy farmland in China, even if they allowed you to. But they currently don't even allow you to. And I think that underscores the disparity that exists in our trading relationship with China. And that's why I'm very hawkish on the president's plan to use tariffs as a way of driving a better deal with China. And frankly, we better do it soon, or we're going to find ourselves behind the 8 ball with China.
I know how much you enjoy and appreciate the ability to serve the people of the 6th District, but you and I were talking off air about the holidays with your family and your 2 young boys, 7 and 3. Does it get frustrating to be in D.C.? Does D.C. frustrate you just as a guy that you want to affect change, you want to see successes for your district? Is it a frustrating place to be?
It is a very frustrating place to be, and I think I've said this to you on the air before. The only thing that kind of gives me solace is that I think the founders wanted to kind of tie us up in knots. They wanted Congress. They wanted the federal government to be difficult to navigate and to get things done, because they wanted us to move slowly and methodically and be very contemplative about what we're doing. And so because of that, I take some solace. They made it difficult to get things done. That's really reassuring when the stuff that somebody might be doing is stuff that you don't think should happen. When you want to do things that you think would be good for the country or undo things that have been done in the past that are bad, then it's very frustrating. And it's very frustrating navigating the politics of it. But here's the bottom line. The founders set it up so that if you want to accomplish something, you've got to build consensus. And that's a pretty doggone good way of going about things.
Look, John, I know to know you is to like you, and I feel like we've got such a good relationship going. And I'm not here to ask you these curveball questions, but you're here, you're in studio, and I'm hearing John Rose's name a lot when it comes to Tennessee politics. I am. I'm hearing your name thrown around a lot when it comes to other roles of public service. Is that something that you're hearing? Is that something that you're considering?
It's something I'm considering, and frankly,
I'm talking about the governor's race. Just to be real clear for those of you in Anion out there that don't understand, I hear your name when it comes to the governor's race.
Sure, and I hear that too, and I'm excited about the path ahead. That's where I would put things.
I know you're focused on the 119th Congress, but should you ever consider to refocus your attention on another area of public service, when down the road would that decision-making process come about?
Well, so
you love the way I ask that question, don't you?
Yeah, I think you have to acknowledge that it takes time to put together the pieces to make something like that happen, and so it probably comes up sooner as opposed to later.
Okay.
But right now, I am so excited. I ran for Congress in 2018 because I was frustrated with Congress failing to support President Trump in implementing his vision for America, and so you can imagine then. Go back over the last 6 years, and the thought that I would get to be right back at this point with the president coming in with a new term in office and Republicans in majority in the House and the Senate, and the chance to get that done.
I'm gonna respect the pivot, and I'm gonna go with it because I appreciate it. But when I ask you that, did you ever think in 2020? And we could go the rest of the show talking about how all that happened with COVID and the cloak of COVID and the fog and all that. But did you ever think that we would be here in tomorrow is 2025, and we are set in less than 3 weeks to see the inauguration of Donald J. Trump, the 47th president? Could you imagine it?
I honestly couldn't have imagined that at that point. I think, like so many people, regardless of whether you thought it was fair or the best for the country, it was just hard to imagine how President Trump could reset the table and come back and win in 4 years and even be interested in doing it. And so, my goodness, you have to have the greatest respect for this guy for everything he's been through, that he was willing to step up to the plate, put himself and his family through this, and to prevail. It's nothing short of astounding, and I think we'll books will be written for years to centuries to come about this guy and his ability to rebound from what looked like the darkest day on January 6th.
Never happened. I mean, yeah, we're living in unprecedented times. And
Absolutely.
listen, I'm here to hold you guys to account. Look, we've got the House, we got the Senate. I know. Don't talk to me about a supermajority in the Senate. I want to hear it from Blackburn or Haggerty. I want things to get done and on the man's desk. That's what the American people and the people of Tennessee want, John.
Absolutely. And the best tool we have there is to orderly get the House underway and then begin to use the process of reconciliation, the budget reconciliation process, which would allow us to do a lot of the work that needs to be done with only a majority in the Senate. And if we play those cards right, which means that we've got to be very careful and we've got to be together, then we can really change the country in the way that I think the American people are calling for.
All right, whatever 2025 brings, I don't expect that any big news will happen on this show, but just make us the first stop after it happens. Would you do that for us, John? Whatever that news might be.
Sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
Is that fair?
It's fair.
All
it's
right.
absolutely fair.
Thank you for stopping by today.
Thanks, Matt. Again, such an honor to serve the people of Tennessee and look forward to the road ahead and exciting things to come.
John Rose, Congressman of the 6th Congressional District. We'll be back right after this. It's 22 after the hour. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. If you're watching on Super Talk TV, I might look like the last person that would be talking to you about We Grow Hair and PAI Medical. But frankly, I went by to see the gang. Before I started growing my hair out a little bit longer with my locks for Trump, I went by and saw PAI Medical in Brentwood and asked them, said, look, I just want to make sure that everything that's going on my head is going to continue because the last thing I need, I have a lumpy head. The last thing I need is to be balding. And they actually saw where I was thinning out around the crown of my head a little bit, and I received the FDA-approved laser treatment from PAI Medical and We Grow Hair. Makes my hair thicker and fuller, prevents further hair loss. It's non-invasive. You go under the laser lights for about 30 minutes, and there you go. Now, whether you're just beginning to lose your hair or you've been losing for a long time, We Grow Hair is the only clinic in Nashville with all of the proving medical solutions and their trademarked multi-unit grafting procedure and the ARTIS robotic FUE hair transplant procedure. Long way to say results are guaranteed at We Grow Hair. Free consultation right now, 615-376-6010, 376-6010. Stop that hair loss in 2025 with We Grow Hair.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
There has been another vicious attack on the New York City subway. We'll give you the details coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I mean, I had plenty of time.
Oh, yeah.
Plenty of time.
No worries.
No worries at all. Were you worried? Oh, look, on camera, they saw me sit down.
I was getting ready to say, dude, you ran around that corner and you're not even breathing hard.
Whew. Oh, Lord, I had to walk the good congressman out of the front door. There's nobody else to do it. Have y'all noticed that I understand that it's normally kind of lonely at 527 here at the friendly confines of Cumulus, Nashville. It's particularly lonely today.
Kind of like a ghost town.
A little bit like a ghost town. My apologies to Heather, by the way. She was holding to tell us that she was going down to the festivities, and she told me that she had to go. She said, this is Heather. I had to drop. But yes, my annual routine is to watch the national and Nashville coverage on TV. As soon as the ball drops in New York, I'll load up my team. What? Okay, hold on. This is Heather. Had to drop. But yes, my annual routine is to watch the national coverage on television and Nashville coverage. And as soon as the ball drops in New York,
which would be 11 p.m.
Here. Central Tennessee time, I load up my teenage grandkids. And we had what? See, she's shaming us a little bit because we said we're too old for all this. And I'm not suggesting that Heather's old, but she's loading up her teenage grandchildren and heading down to the Bicentennial Mall. We can easily park near Jefferson and 8th. Well, don't tell everybody, Heather. You're going to ruin it.
Yeah, good luck now.
And walk right down to the site. We enjoy the last 30 minutes of music and excitement. There are screens on the stage. We watch the music note drop and the fireworks. Great adventure and time well worth it.
Yeah,
Happy
but
New
does she live on 9th?
Yes. It's not even the getting there at that point in the proceedings. It would be kind of the getting out that would be bothersome.
I was getting ready to say, if you're going to park on 8th and you live on 9th, big deal.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you just got a block to go.
Now, she's driving, from some of the outskirts. Now, that's something.
No, she, Heather, if you're listening, Heather, tell us where you're driving from. I'd be curious to find out. But Heather says it's an annual tradition with her and her family that she's been doing that
She's
for
probably going to drive in from McMinnville.
That's a nice thing to do for the grandkids.
For the grandkids. I mean, that's going to be a memory. Yeah, that's going to be a memory that the grandkids. I mean, my grandpa, I remember our annual tradition was for us to try to listen to Dick Clark over my grandpa snoring in his easy chair, which was not easy. And you had to walk over to turn the old Zenith up because there was no remote control at Grandma and Grandpa's house.
Yeah, that was you. That was you.
Well, that's true. That was me.
You were the remote control.
Have I ever told you the story about when my grandma bought Cinemax and HBO?
Uh-oh.
My grandfather was so angry because it was like $6 a month. Yeah. I was so upset at her. But she's like, oh, you'll like it. The children will like it, blah, blah, blah. And so we would watch like HBO and we'd be watching a movie and my grandpa would be sitting there in his easy chair. And then if people started cussing, he would let it go for a second. But if it got too much or if there was any sort of skin shown, then my grandfather, his remote control, which was me, was to say, this is getting a little raunchy. And that was his way of saying, you need to get up and change this.
You were like, oh, it's just getting good.
It's just dadgummit. And then I mental note to look for this movie in the guide later when Pa's not around. All right, we're going to play a little game called Getting to Know You coming up after the news where we talk about New Year's Eve traditions for the three of us. We'd love to hear from you as well, 615-737-9986. And what about that John Rose? John Rose not answering any of my questions about whether he's running for governor or not. But
he didn't deny it.
He didn't deny it. He said, "Who knows what 2025 will bring?" So, I don't expect to be the announcement place, but I just want to be the first stop after the announcement. Is that fair?
That's fair.
I think that's fair.
I think it'd be cool to be the announcement place.
I hope John's listening. It's 30 after the hour on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top story. It's going to be about 40 degrees tonight when that big red music note drops, ringing in 2025 here in Music City. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Another seemingly random attack on the New York City subway today. This woman witnessed a man shove another man onto the tracks right in front of an oncoming train. This at the 18th Street station in Chelsea around 1:30 p.m. local time.
The older man who was pushed just walked slowly right onto the platform, perfect timing. The other man who pushed him was just walking slowly towards him and shoved him the last second.
Now, that victim's in critical condition. The other man is in custody. And we know the identity of the woman burned alive on a New York City subway train this month. Mayor Eric Adams announced she was 61-year-old Debrina Kawam of Toms River, New Jersey, who had spent some time in the city's homeless shelters. They're in contact with her family in New Jersey. The suspect, illegal immigrant from Guatemala, Sebastian Zapata, will be arraigned next week. New developments in the effort to bring justice for the victims of 9/11. A military appeals court last night upheld Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and two other defendants' plea deals to avoid the death penalty. But Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who opposes the deal, can challenge it in the D.C. Circuit Court if he wishes. Happy New Year already in parts of the world. That's how it sounded in Rome. Here in Nashville, the gates opened about a half hour there at Bicentennial Mall for revelers to watch the free concert headlined by Keith Urban and the famous Red Music Note drop. About 200,000 people expected over there on that 11-acre mall and way over our heads.
Well, Happy New Year from the International Space Station.
That's Tennessee native and astronaut Butch Wilmore from the International Space Station. Wilmore, one of the two Boeing astronauts who's been stranded in orbit for months, but seems like he's handling things well.
We'll get to go around the planet here every 90 minutes, so we'll get 16 New Year celebrations here on the International Space Station.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Not seeing any problems on the interstate at all. Now in Madison, off the interstate, looks like police reporting a crash there, Dickerson Pike at Skyline Ridge Road. Then in Nashboro Village, police reporting a crash, Murfreesboro Pike at Bell Road. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, sadly, some in Middle Tennessee choose to suspend their pest service through the winter months. This is not the way to go, folks, and I'm here to talk about it. It's Matt Murphy for U.S. Pest. J.K. and Erica Brister want to remind you that during the winter months, the bugs, the creepy crawlies, and especially the rodents, they're looking for what is yours. They want the same things you want, right? They want food and warmth, and they get it from your home if you allow it. Don't allow it. Call U.S. Pest, because protection begins with U.S. Pest. The purpose of pest control is to prevent these insects and these rodents from coming into your home, bringing with them disease and pestilence and just a big icky factor. Full service pest control, termite protection, and crawl space service, all 100% guaranteed through U.S. Pest. Here's what you do. You call, and they'll provide a free inspection of your home, and they'll tell you the truth about what's going on. If you're A-OK, they'll tell you that. But if you want to prevent the bugs from coming into your home and the rodents from coming into your home, there's one and only that I would recommend, and that is the brand that you know and trust, U.S. Pest. Go to uspest.com or call 590-1260, 590-1260 for the one and only U.S. Pest. You know, I think I'm going to bring this back. I used to play a game called The Last Thing I Heard before we came back from break. I did this when I had a radio partner, Andrea Lindenberg, back in Birmingham, who said the funniest things, and then I would repeat them on the radio, and she would get very angry at me. In this case, it's the last thing that Matt said before we came back from break. And the last thing I said, you recall what I said? I was like, is this the last spot? Because I have to pee.
Yeah.
And you said, yes, this is the last spot. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I don't get to do that now.
Well, at least you didn't say tinkle.
Why do you do that to me? I know who says tinkle, kid. With regularity. I don't say I haven't tinkled since I was like 8.
You know, I hate to tell the story, and I may not even be telling it correctly, but it was a day that I was off. This was probably a year or so, maybe 2 years ago. I was off, apparently, this day when it happened, but I got word that during Brian's show, he went to break, and I guess whoever was the producer filling in for me did not turn Brian's feed off from his home studio, and he announced over the air that he was going to tinkle.
Yeah, that's where I got it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were talking about Nashville's Morning News and Young Dan Mandis.
Well, it probably was. I guess it probably was back when we were still in the mornings. It may have been back that long ago.
I was cooking sloppy joes because I still worked the morning shift, and I heard it.
Oh, okay. So it was in the afternoon. All
Okay,
right.
it was okay. So it was Wilson.
And I mean, I'm telling you, I about fell down.
I was told that story when I returned.
I always used the phrase, I need to go shake the dew from my lily. What? That's a perfectly. Is that okay? Can we say that?
That's graphic. It's colorful.
I mean, I think it's a perfectly acceptable term. I learned that from the fabulous feature film Six Pack, starring Kenny Rogers.
I don't remember that.
If you've never seen that movie, you do yourself a favor and go see that. I mean, that's a great film.
What about the term, got to go talk to a man about a horse?
Oh, yeah, I know that one, too.
My grandfather used to say, I got to go see Miss Murphy.
My mama said that, and I never got it.
I never got it either. I never questioned. I knew exactly what he meant, and I never asked him where he got it from.
You know what? Might have been the brand of a commode.
Maybe
Back in the day.
Maybe
could have been.
I don't know. And my mother, if you tried to take the last of anything on the table, she would say, "No, we're saving that for Ms. Manners." And as young as I can remember, I didn't know who the hell Ms. Manners was. But I wanted the last pork chop.
And why she never came to claim that last pork chop.
Yeah, I mean, she's never coming to get the pork chop. I don't know why we're doing that. Oh no. My grandpa used to tell me that he's like, we got to hurry. We'd be on a job. My grandfather was a self-employed mechanic all of his working life. Worked on big machinery and farm equipment and that sort of thing. And he would say, we got to hurry this job up. My teeth are floating. Be in the middle of a field, and you got to find a tree somewhere. So,
Yep.
yeah, there it goes. Hey, this seems like a good enough time at 41 after the hour to play a game that I like. This is a fast-growing segment on the Matt Murphy portion of the broadcast day that everybody's excited about. Everybody's talking about it. Not necessarily positively, but everybody's talking about it. It's called Getting to Know You. New Year's Eve edition of Getting to Know You with your cast of characters, young Chris Webber there in Studio A. Hello, Mr. Webber.
Hello.
There's Ken Weaver. He's back in News Closet B. He suspends his gathering of headlines for this segment of Getting to Know You. Hello, Ken.
Good afternoon, boys.
And my name is Matt Murphy, yes. Not good? Not good? Did you say not good afternoon?
No, I said good afternoon,
okay.
boys. Yeah.
All right, very good. So, question A from me in this segment of Getting to Know You, New Year's Eve edition. When is the last time that either of you two gentlemen went out on New Year's Eve?
Wow.
That you can remember. See, I knew I should have held this question for last because I knew that this was the response that I would get.
Does someone else's house count as going out?
I'm going to allow it because I fear if I don't, we won't be able to remember.
I would say in that case probably 15 years ago.
15 years for just someone else's house?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who goes out? Everybody I know stays in.
I cannot recall. The last time I might have gone out Maybe whenever I lived in Albuquerque back in the early 2000s.
He's got me beat by a few years then.
And I left my shirt on.
The last time I actively remember going out was, I mean, maybe I'll get reminded of a time, but the last time I remember was 2000, like the turn of the century.
Yeah,
you were laughing at me for 15 years.
I just
25.
No, I'm right there with you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just don't understand those that do. But apparently, there are plenty of those that do.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they're gathering right now.
I would think so. I mean, I would imagine so. So then the question B from me, and you gentlemen are welcome to throw in your questions regarding New Year's Eve as you desire. But so if you don't go out, if you have a beverage to celebrate the end of one year and the beginning of another one, what would that beverage be? Beverage of choice for New Year's Eve. A lot of
I'm gonna have some of those Negro Modelos tonight.
Ooh, those aren't
We
bad.
got a Mexican food spread, and I like that Modelo.
Oh, hold on. Tell me more about this Mexican food spread.
Oh man, we went out and got a bunch of pulled pork, and we're gonna make nachos with pulled pork.
Oh my goodness!
I'll be over about 8:30.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I'm gonna break my streak.
I'm about to say, should I take 65 through Franklin, or should I go 24 on the way to your place, Ken?
Well, if you want to get there by the time the red music note drops, you better take 65.
Which I have it on good authority that drops right at midnight tonight, according to Ken Weaver in News Closet.
They start dropping it somewhere right before midnight.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah,
but I don't know exactly what time.
Be a lot more convenient if they'd move it up a little bit.
I know, like 10.
Yeah, that'd be better for me.
It would be nice for me. What about you, Weber?
My drink of choice would be not champagne or sparkling wine or whatever it is. That I know that's the traditional thing. I do not like that stuff. Yeah. Somehow we always end up with a bottle of it. There's a bottle of it right now in my garage, my beer fridge in my garage. That's from last year that we didn't drink. I don't know where it came from.
So will you open it?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I may. If I think about it, I have to actively think about it just to get rid of it. I'll drink a glass and then pour it.
Gives me a headache.
It just doesn't taste good.
Here's my solution to the taste and the headache. At least over the years that I have been handed, I've never opened a bottle of. I've only opened bottles of champagne that I've been told to open. Right? Somebody hands me and says, "You need to open this." But if I'm handed a glass of champagne, my tip to all of you that don't like champagne is to get all those bubbles out of there. You got to shake it up and de-bubblify it. And the de-bubblification of the champagne will help in your headache, and it will make it taste better. Of course, I'm the guy that likes flat soda, too. So
yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the bubbles is kind of what makes champagne, right?
Yeah, but I don't like champagne.
If it's not, it's just wine.
Well,
is it?
It's
I guess. Yeah.
It's a sipper, and I'm not a sipper.
You're a chugger.
I can't sip.
I like those Negro Modelos, though.
Oh, I do too.
And see, I'm going to go some brown and maybe a little. Normally, I'll do some brown like bourbon or whiskey.
Yeah.
But I throw a little soda in early, and that keeps you motivated to make it to midnight.
That's a good.
See, if I start with just the brown water at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, then I'm asleep by 11 o'clock.
Yeah. I'll probably ring in the new year with a refreshing sparkling water. I drink a lot of those. A lot of them.
A refreshing sparkling one, like one of those. Do you do those ice? Those are good.
No, I just do whatever. There's like 400 brands. I don't know. There's just carbonated waters.
Do you drink much?
Not much.
Yeah.
That's kind of taken the place of the alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, like I mentioned my garage beer fridge. It's really the sparkling water fridge. I probably have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 7 or 8 cases of sparkling water in my beer fridge of various flavors and stuff.
like 3 beers.
Yeah. And there's like 2 Miller Lights left over from the last time my dad was in town or something.
Right.
I don't know.
I took great pride when we opened up the house years ago in Helena, Alabama. When I finally got my beer fridge, it was probably 15 years ago. I was so proud of my beer fridge in the garage. And so every time I went to the store, I'd buy a different type of 6-pack because I wanted to have whatever kind of beer whoever came over wanted.
Yeah.
And for, I don't know, 10 years, I never invited anybody over, and nobody ever wanted any of my beer when they came over.
And you didn't want to drink it because it wasn't your brand.
Right.
Yeah.
I drank the same kind of beer every time. Pabst Blue Ribbon, thank you very much, or Miller High Life, the champagne of beers, which I might have a High Life tonight. Oh, that's good. No, that's good stuff.
Okay.
So, which leads us to this then. When do you expect to make it to midnight tonight? Ken Weaver?
I will fall asleep with the Twilight Zone marathon playing in the background.
I would say
I wake up to Captain Kirk seeing a little troll on the wing of the plane.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I normally don't like to even attempt it. I will attempt it. I will be awake this year because my kid's going to be at his girlfriend's house to ring in the new year, and then he's coming home, so we have to stay up until he arrives home because of
because of the
those
idiots.
superstitions as well. My wife has really weird superstitions.
Like, what are
New
the
Year's.
superstitions?
You can't. Let's see. Once you go to sleep, if you go to sleep on New Year's Eve or after the New Year rings in, you cannot speak once you wake up until you have taken your piece of silver. No, wait. You do the silver. But all right, let me back up. This is weird. I'm telling you, I've never heard any of this. All right, before you go to bed on New Year's Eve, you have to take a piece of silver and put it outside. Okay, so we usually grab a fork out of the, piece of silver outside. When you wake up on New Year's Day, before you speak, before you say a word to anyone, you have to get up, go outside, grab your piece of silver, and get a piece of green, something green, a leaf off of a, shrub or something, and bring it in. You have to do that before you speak a word to anyone.
This is a prosperity superstition, I would think. Like,
I don't think she even knows. I think she just does it because her grandparents did it or whatever. I just have to go along with it, Yeah, okay. She got mad. I fought it and she got mad at me, so I just said, okay, I'll play along.
One of the I love when you don't realize, because I've been there too, where you don't, when with the wife, you don't realize, you think we're just playing. We're just joking, and then you don't do, and then you realize, oh my gosh, you get the look.
This is serious.
Like, this is a serious thing, and they're like, look, this is not important to me. This is not a hill I want to die on. Whatever, I'll take a fork outside. It's all good. Do y'all do the greens, the black eyed peas and the greens?
Oh yeah,
yeah. We do.
And you got to put you have to put a dime in the pot of black eyed peas.
Oh really?
Yeah.
And then she takes the silver thing seriously.
Everyone in the household has to stir the pot of black eyed peas. And then once you are served your black eyed peas, if your serving has the dime in it, you're the winner. I don't know what you win, but
well, hopefully you don't win a trip to the hospital because you swallowed a dime. Holy, hey, Weaver, y'all doing any of this at the Weaver household?
No.
Wow, man.
No,
maybe this is why Weber's life is so much better than ours.
Yeah, well.
I know Chris never seems to get excited about anything. He seems real calm.
If you saw the crap I had to deal with at home, man, you would get it.
Well, at the same time, he does seem pretty calm. But I bet he's not very calm when somebody's demanding that he takes all the silverware outside at 11:45 at night.
I'm barely awake. Oh, crap.
Oh my! Well, I
I
like mustard greens. I like collard greens. So
what's the preferred green of the three? Mustard, collard, turnip.
Mustard. I like because they're peppery. My grandmother was a big fan of the mustard greens, and I'm a big fan of the mustard greens. They're just a more peppery flavor. Weaver, are you a fan of the greens?
I am a fan of the greens as long as it's got bacon fat in it.
Sure.
And bacon.
That goes without saying.
Oh, well, of course. Or some of that fat back. My grandma used to call it fat back. What about you, Chris?
Oh, yeah, love them.
All of them?
Yeah, I'll eat any of them. I don't care. Any green's good to me.
Yeah,
Put a little bit of that hot pepper sauce on it.
I put sriracha sauce on it.
That'd be good, too.
5522 wants to know what's up with the silver. I don't know. Chris brought it up. What's up with the silver?
I had no clue, man. Don't ask me.
Okay, well.
Interesting.
I just do it.
Andy writes in and says, all I know is for tonight, I'm headed to White House to get some free silver. You find it, it's yours. Break it, you buy it. Brian says, y'all must be fighting werewolves up there in White Everybody have a safe and happy New Year's Eve evening. 52 after the hour. That's how we play Getting to Know You. That's right. Thank you, Julie. 53 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTO.
Another vicious attack on the New York City subway the same day we learned the identity of that poor woman who was burned alive on the New York City subway. That's coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I mean, bad news to end 2024, but that is New York City right now. We mentioned, I've mentioned a couple of times that Curtis Sliwa, who is a New York City, he's a stalwart in New York City. He's been around for a long time. He's a talk radio show host up there, and he started a program called The Guardian Angels years and years ago. He's cranked that program back up for good reason, because sadly the New York City Police Department either can't or won't do what is necessary to patrol the New York City subways, as sad as it is. Sadly, we've got crime issues in the city of Nashville as well, and we've got a couple of things to say about it. Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell has touted his years of collaboration with a group that the Biden-Harris administration is asking for help on illegal aliens and to help sanctuary programs that would benefit those illegal aliens. We'll talk to you about that next. We'll also tell you about some of the laws that are coming into effect starting tomorrow in the state of Tennessee, plus Donald Trump's top 10 of 2024. That is all on the way. It is Matt Murphy, Ken Weaver, Chris Webber. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Stand by. Final hour of the year coming up next.
Six o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Going to be 40 degrees tonight and windy when that big red music note drops at Bicentennial Mall, ringing in 2025. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Another attack in the New York City subway. This woman said a man pushed another man onto the tracks at the 18th Street station in Manhattan just after 1:30 p.m. local time.
Right at the last second, right in front of the train. Just shoved right in front of the train.
Yeah, that victim taken to Bellevue in critical condition. The other man is in custody. New York City police identifying the woman burned alive on the subway this month. 61-year-old Debrina Kawam of Toms River, New Jersey. Mayor Eric Adams said she had spent a brief time in the city's homeless shelter system and that authorities have been in touch with her next of kin.
People should not be living on our subway system. They should be in a place of care. And no matter where she lived, that should not have happened.
Kawam was sleeping on a stationary train at a Coney Island stop in Brooklyn when she was set on fire. Police say by 33-year-old illegal immigrant from Guatemala, Sebastian Zepeda, charged with first-degree and second-degree murder and first-degree arson, faces arraignment next week. 23 and a half years after the attacks of 9/11 and the alleged plotters' deal with prosecutors to avoid the death penalty is back in play. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin opposed it when it was announced last summer, appealed it, and then last night a military appeals court upheld the deal, siding with military defense attorneys who argued Austin has no legal standing. Austin can take the challenge to a D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals if he wishes. President Trump backing Mike Johnson for Speaker of the House when members vote Friday, but Johnson can afford to lose only 1 or 2 Republican votes. Tennessee Congressman Scott Desjardins telling WTN's Chad Benson.
Right now, Mike Johnson's our guy. And we need to get everybody lined up. We need to get him voted in. Trump's got executive orders lined up on day one. We've got immigration reform on day one. We've got so many things that the people voted for and what I would call a mandate that we need to get this going.
Tennessee Congressman John Rose says Mike Johnson is the clear choice, but Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett says he's going to wait until Friday to decide. Happy New Year in other parts of the world. Fireworks around Berlin's Brandenburg Gate. And here in Nashville, 200,000 revelers expected to watch the free concert headlined by Keith Urban and the red music note drop at Bicentennial Mall downtown. Plans are in place for the goodbyes to late President Jimmy Carter after his death at the age of 100. His remains will be moved on Saturday, passing by his boyhood home and taken to Atlanta. The public will have a chance for a viewing at the state capitol as well as the Carter Center in Atlanta. Here's Steve Onsunsami.
Then his remains are off to Washington, D.C. for a public visitation at the U.S. Capitol. And then finally, next week, Thursday, the state funeral at the National Cathedral. President Joe Biden will deliver the eulogy.
Carter will be buried in Plains, Georgia, at his home next to his wife. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Not a bad drive out there on the interstates, except for Sylvan Park. We've got a crash reported by police, 40 eastbound, right after the White Bridge Pike, Briley Parkway West, exit 204. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is the Matt Murphy Show, final hour of the week. Stop that. Correction. Final hour of the day, final hour of the year, not the final hour of the week, which seems odd to say, but it is true. As we will be back on Thursday for our January 2nd edition of the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday edition, December 31. As Ken Weaver just mentioned, roadways looking pretty good. A lot of folks already off, maybe the entire day off. Thank you for spending some of your day with us. We appreciate whatever time you're able to give us, whether it's the full 4 hours or just a few minutes while you're in your automobile or at your place of business or your home. I thank you. If you want to open up the phone lines, let's open up the phone line, 615-737-9986. We told you what some of our New Year's Day traditions or New Year's Eve traditions were in the Getting to Know You segment last hour. What about you? Are you planning to go? I said that I would do this, and Heather called in advance of officially opening up the phone lines on the subject. But Heather says that she goes down and watches the red music note drop from Bicentennial Mall annually. That she parks over there on Jefferson and takes the grandkids down, and they watch the thing do it, and then off they go and back into the car. What about you? Anyone in your automobile going out to dinner, going out to frivolity, planning on going down to Bicentennial Mall? I'm not judging you. I'm just fascinated that these people exist. And apparently there's 200,000 of them that exist, because that's the anticipation for this year's festivities. Monica writes in and says, our New Year's tradition started when our daughter was about 4. I invited the neighbors' kids over because I knew their parents wanted to go out and party. I just said, why don't you let the kids spend the night? It turned into a tradition, and until our daughter graduated high school, we had root beer floats at midnight. Lots of great memories. That sounds very nice.
Yeah, that is nice.
That's very good. 0930 said, darn, well, he didn't say darn, but I'll say darn. I try not to cuss. I do, but I try not to cuss. Darn, I must be old. I remember Guy Lombardo on New Year's. That's where the tradition of Auld Lang Syne came from. Does anybody know what that song means?
I don't like that song anyway.
The only reason I appreciate that song is the scene in When Harry Met Sally. It's played in the background, and he makes reference to it.
See, it's been so long since I've seen that movie, I don't even remember that.
When he comes in and he says, he says, I've been doing a lot of thinking, and the thing is, I love you. And so they're the New Year's Eve party. The thing is, I love you, and they're Auld Lang Syne or Auld. Is it Auld Lang Syne?
Old.
Say it again. Old.
It's close enough.
You didn't want it.
Old.
Auld Lang Syne. It's old because it's last year's Lang Syne. We're getting a new Lang Syne come the new year.
Old.
You got the
official. Yeah.
That's the official word pronouncer of the Matt Murphy Show right there. Let's hear it again.
Old.
Auld Lang Syne.
Old.
Which means all old people, I think.
It means old.
Does it mean old?
It does, yeah.
Well, then why don't we just say old? This is I don't know if you know this or not, whatever. This is America. We speak American.
Yeah. Apparently that's Scottish. Old.
Okay, well, since we're on it now, what does Lang Syne mean?
Now you're asking me questions I don't know. Let's see.
Mr. Smart Guy. All that means old. Lang means...
it means... Well, wait a minute now. This says all... Yeah, Auld Lang Syne means times long past. Or okay, here we go. Here's the Scottish phrase that translates to old long since, or for old time's sake.
Oh, so we're remembering those times past over the course of 2024, whatever year it might be, and thinking about times to be, I suppose. Okay, well, it's still a sucky song, and I don't remember Guy Lombardo. I'm a Dick Clark guy.
Wasn't he the coach of the Green Bay Packers?
That's. I'm surprised that he took a moment to commemorate the new year. He was probably busy getting ready for the next football game, right?
Yeah.
Guy Lombardo was a contemporary of what was the other one that Lawrence Welk, probably, right? Big band
before my time.
Big band fella before my time too. Here's a list of new laws set to take effect in Tennessee at midnight tonight, January 1, 2025. After being passed earlier this year by lawmakers in the Tennessee General Assembly. Wrap your brains around these. See which ones you like. See which ones grab on you. One of the most anticipated laws set to take effect in the new year. I think I'm getting sick.
Don't say that.
I think I'm getting sick.
I said don't say it.
I was out with some friends, and
that's how it always starts.
And he was sick.
Yep.
And now I'm getting sick. I got the little cough. I got the little tickle in the throat thing happening. I got the head thing going on. Luckily, tomorrow's the day off, so I'll
use it wisely.
If Mandis is listening to the show, I'll antiseptic the room before I leave it for you, bright and early Thursday morning. But I feel the so if I cough on y'all, I'm sorry. One of the most anticipated laws set to take effect in the new year is the Protecting Children from Social Media Act. I'm reading here from the Tennessee Star article, which requires social media companies to, quote, verify the age of an individual who attempts to become an account holder at the time the individual attempts to become account holder. I wonder how that's going to work. I have a inclination that it won't. Another law set to take effect in the new year aims to protect minors, not headlamp little kids. Minors on the internet is the Protect Tennessee Minors, MINOR Act, which requires websites that contain, quote, a substantial portion of material harmful to minors to perform, quote, reasonable age verification methods to verify the age of individuals attempting to access the material. Violation of the laws are classified as a Class C felony in Tennessee, which carry a maximum penalty of 3 to 15 years and a $10,000 fine. So just reading this is for pornographic websites, right? I would think.
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't pretend to know what the process is. Even if I knew what the process was, I wouldn't admit it to any of you people. But are there no verifications currently? Why am I asking that? Because some of you anonymous folk on the super text line, are there any verification processes now? I guess not.
If it's something you have to pay for, I would think you would have to at least have the credit card, but I guess you could just put in you wouldn't have to verify it was your credit card.
I suppose. I think there are subscription-less sites. In fact, I know that there are subscription-less sites that I would suppose don't currently require. But how are you going to require age verification? You're going to require IDs? I don't know.
That's a good question.
Just that seems fraught with an ability to find loopholes in the law. But you know what?
Not to mention, if you want to find it, you can find it. You can get. Come on. It's everywhere.
I agree. At some point, and I'm not necessarily against this. I'm not taking a stand against the Protect Tennessee Minors Act requiring that websites contain. But when you start going down the road of age verification on the internet, at some point the parents have to do part of this lift, if not most 100%. Or all of this lift. And I just, if parents aren't going to, what is going to prevent why wouldn't the kid just get the birthday to their mom or their dad and do it that way?
Yeah, or if they have to have a driver's license, just, swipe the old man's license, scan it, move on.
I feel like, I will say this, though. There is something to be said for that kids of a certain age, and you and I have been there, Chris, your interest and your, whatever, the hormones that are raging in your body when you're going through puberty, they lead you down a path where you're looking for those Playboy magazines or you're trying to find access to whatever you can find access to. And I will tell you that it used to be a hell of a lot harder. And I think 100%, I think there's something to be said for that you might be able to find it.
You had to work for it, though.
But you had to work for it.
Yeah.
And now with the material that are sadly at the fingertips of kids whose parents maybe aren't paying as much attention, it is going to affect their brains. It becomes an addiction much like drugs. It becomes an addiction like cigarettes. It becomes an addiction like alcohol or anything else. And sadly, it can warp a young mind to the point that they are, pardon the play on words here, perverted with regard to sexual activity for the rest of their lives. So I understand the consequences of not taking responsibility as a parent, but ultimately, I feel like it's the parents' responsibility to handle some of this stuff. The government can only do so much because the other side of it is government oversight on the internet in its entirety. And if you want the government to start controlling the internet, a couple of things. One, be careful what you wish for, because I promise you the government will do it, and they'll begin monitoring. And when you get the wrong people in charge of government, they're going to start monitoring wrong think, not wrong photo or wrong video, wrong think. And liberals are already itching. They are champing or chomping. I say chomping. From now on, by the way, I said champing in honor of Brian Wilson just then. But that's it. It's chomping from now on. I don't even know why I said champing. He's a champing guy, right?
He's a champer.
He was always a champer. I was always been a chomper. Chomping at the bit to regulate, quote unquote, misinformation. That's what's next, right? It's the camel's nose under the tent that you have to worry about when it comes to this stuff. So, on one hand, this seems great. Oh, you want age verification on the internet? Well, why don't we just stop all young people from being able to use the internet in its entirety? Why don't we stop misinformation on the internet? Why don't we stop what we consider to be pornographic on the internet? Well, that's a slippery slope that I don't know that we want to go down. Another law set to take effect, it changes Tennessee's present law regarding juvenile offenders. This is a little more in the weeds, but I'll share it with you. The new law allows a juvenile court to impose a blended sentence on a child 16 years of age or older for a juvenile offense that would be a Class A, B, or C felony if committed by an adult. Under current law, juvenile criminals have their records expunged at 19, even if they've committed violent felonies. As of January 1, the new law allows judges to impose sentences that would last beyond age 19, but no older than 25. Also, a law that will take effect on January 1 increases access to birth control for TennCare customers. It requires TennCare to provide coverage for a 12-month refill of contraception obtained at one time by an insured person unless the insured requests a smaller supply, et cetera, et cetera. Those are a few of the laws that are set to change starting on January 1st. Nothing earth-shattering. I guess the biggest one was the Protecting Children from Social Media Act, which requires social media companies to verify the age of an individual who attempts to become an account holder at the time the individual attempts to become an account holder. But it doesn't seem to put a minimum age on the account holder. So you just have to verify you are the age that you claim to be before you can go on the Instagram or the TikTok, until they just completely ban the TikTok. It's 20 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. We're winding it down for the year. We'll get out of here at 7 o'clock, make way for Mark Levin or whomever is filling in for Mark Levin tonight. I think Mark is off all week, or at least until New Year's Day. But one way or the other, we got it covered for you on the Mark Levin Show, the great one this evening, starting at 7 o'clock when we say adios and we call it a year. So several of you communicating on the super text line. One, if it's not that much trouble, 8528 writes, if it's not that much trouble, please ask Matt. Hello, I'm Matt. People don't believe that it's me, even though it says MM after I respond. People still don't think it's me when I respond on the super text line.
It's like the celebrity, Facebook pages. You're like, yeah, it's not really.
Well, I was over on the YouTubes, and someone said, "Is that Michael D? He looks different." Talking about me. I don't know if they were serious or they were joking around. And so I didn't realize when I pulled up the YouTubes that I was on Chris Hand's account. And so I responded, LOL negative, and then I put an MM, which immediately they thought that I was Chris. And,
oh, boy.
And so I put my account on there and I said, but thank you, this is Matt Murphy, to which Fly Girl writes, hey, we got Chris and Matt up in here on the YouTube together. No, we don't. Not Chris, Matt, or Michael, for that matter. But anyway, 8528 writes, if it's not too much trouble, please ask Matt, hello, what is the name of the horror movie that he was talking about on 1226? I don't think I should. I did, but I do not watch the Poughkeepsie tapes. I'm telling you, do not watch the Poughkeepsie tapes. And so I responded, I said, it's called the Poughkeepsie tapes. Don't. And 8528 writes, I'm not. I'd tinkle myself. Call back.
Nice.
My daughter loves that gruesome bleep. And I was like, well, let me know what she thinks. Matt, how about a shout out for the Amish this year coming out to vote? Well, you know what? I'd love to give the Amish a shout out, but they wouldn't hear me. Now, would they?
If you shout real loud, they might. Open the window.
I guess that's. I always used to say that there's two groups of people that I could besmirch with impunity on the radio and not fear reprisal, and that's the Amish and the deaf. Because y'all aren't going to tell them, right?
Can't do that anymore, though, because closed captioning on the TV side of things.
Oh, it's true.
Yep.
That's true. And we love our cadre of audience from the hearing impaired. Thank you. I wasn't trying to be rude or nasty. I feel like you have a sense of humor.
Too late now.
I feel like you have a sense of humor about all this stuff, regardless of what Weber has to say about it. And then, I lost it. Howard writes in and says, Chris, who blocked this number and why? Howard. Well, you got any? Howard, how am I seeing it and how am I reading your name if somebody blocked your number?
Yeah, Howard called as well just to see if he was blocked, and I said, well, you're talking to me. I didn't know what he meant. So sorry, Howard, you're not blocked.
Well, God bless you, Howard. I mean, why not just get out the airing of the grievances before 2025 rolls in so we can start 2025 with a nice clean slate? Speaking of starting 2025 with a nice clean slate, Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell over the weekend touted his, quote, years of successful collaboration with the Tennessee Immigrant Refugee Rights Coalition, or the TIRRC, Turk, a nonprofit that was asked by U.S. Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement to help facilitate the release of tens of thousands of illegal immigrants from a Louisiana detention facility in Tennessee. What? I guess that's right. Reading from the Tennessee Star, after the Tennessean asked O'Connell about his disappointment following the decision by Metro Nashville Council not to approve a contract for a private company to install license plate readers, the mayor pivoted to safety concerns raised by, quote, a segment of Nashville's immigrant community before referencing another, quote, segment that is concerned with President-elect Donald Trump's plans for mass deportations. We're not a sanctuary. There are no sanctuary cities in this state, right? General Assembly prevented that, correct? The mayor said, I was open to Mayor Freddie O'Connell. I know that I'm not going to agree with him on everything, and the folks that elected Mayor Freddie O'Connell are going to be left of center. So I recognize that coming in. But I was hopeful. I was hopeful that he would do common sense things like, I don't know, approve the Bristol Motor Speedway plan for the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, for example. Instead, he is, I almost said suckling. I won't. He is bowing before John Ingram over there at the Geodis Park and his desire to turn Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway into a parking lot. And he can say that he's not, but that's exactly what he's doing. Secondarily, I thought that he would give fair treatment to the transit tax plan, and he didn't. He lied to the people of Davidson County about that plan. Thirdly, he's planning on increasing your property taxes. I don't know if you heard the show yesterday, but Ben Cunningham had a great treatment on that as a guest on this show. So if you're living in Davidson County, you've got a left-of-center mayor that's acting left-of-center, and he says one thing to us and does other things when he's in front of other groups. And apparently, he's doing everything in his power to try to protect the illegal immigrant community in the city of Nashville. Illegal aliens should be offered no protection with regard to the illegal act that brought them into the country. I'm not here to single them out necessarily, but they broke the law, and they're going to be found by Tom Homan. But the mayor said, the segment that I also think is successfully represented by TIRCC, the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, that is very, very concerned about changes in federal immigration policy, O'Connell told the Tennessean. That may well mean we are dealing at the local level with the impacts of policies like mass deportation programs, which still seems to be getting quite a bit of discussion at the federal level. They are right now very hard to reconcile. Well, Mayor O'Connell, I think Tom Homan's been quite clear. You either need to get in the business of helping them or get out of the way one way or the other. People who are here illegally need to be dealt with at the hands of the federal government. Donald Trump's 10 best moves of 2024 coming up, plus the worst media misses of the year as we wrap things up for the year on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for Efficient Heating and Cooling. Maybe you need a second opinion, or perhaps your heater has just gone out and it's getting colder over the weekend. It's time to give Efficient a call. Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling will not charge you overtime no matter when you call. Bottom line is this. Jeff knows that your heater doesn't know what time it is when it goes out. So why should you pay more because it's 7 o'clock at night versus 2 o'clock in the afternoon? You shouldn't. That's the answer. That's why they don't charge you more at Efficient Heating and Cooling. Secondarily, if you're calling for a maintenance call, you'll never pay over $125 at Efficient Heating and Cooling. Why? Because they don't believe you should pay that much to maintenance your unit. They want to encourage you to do that to get additional life out of your heater. And if it goes out, and the time will come when it'll go out, then they're there for you as well. They're an elite pro partner with Rheem, and Jeff Eddy and his team can point you in the right direction for an installation of a great unit that will last for years and years to come. Go to efficienthvac.net. Easy for me to say. efficienthvac.net, or call today. 615-784-4424. 784-4424. For my man, Jeff Eddy. If your heater's not ready, call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Listeners have questions. Matt Murphy has answers. In this final full segment of our year together, before I offer some of the answers, like Ben has written in. And Ben says, hey, Murph, so as a longtime listener in Birmingham and now streaming you live from Nashville, I need to ask you for some Waffle House knowledge. I've screwed up hash browns on the Blackstone multiple times. What is the secret? Happy New Year.
That's a really good question because I struggle with hash browns as well.
Hash browns on the Blackstone are tricky, and I admit that they are trickier than at Waffle House. But I am a master of the flat top. For those who don't know, I put myself through college in part by working at Waffle House and I was a manager of a Waffle House in Athens, Georgia. I did not go to school in Athens, went to school in Carrollton, but I got fired from my radio job. Long story short, made my way back to Athens, where I managed the Waffle House on Lumpkin Street for about a year, and had a great time doing it. So, yes, I can answer that question. I'm not going to, however, until I talk to Heather, Ben. Hello, Heather. How are you?
Hey. Oh, I'm good. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Glad you called us back. So you, Heather, you're our New Year reveler, correct?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
How long have you been doing this?
Oh, I'm a native Nashvilleian, so I've done it for years and years.
How long has wasn't the Music Note on Broadway for a while, and then it moved over to Bicentennial Park? Help me out with that.
It was on Broadway, and then I was all distressed when it moved, but it's really much better down at Bicentennial Mall. It's very nice down there, yes.
Now, do they have food trucks down there and beverage vehicles, or how does all of that work, or is it kind of a BYOB situation?
Yeah, no, they have food truck. They have everything you need. But see, I have a way of doing it. I don't go down there for the whole event. I watch all the coverage on TV, the national and the Nashville coverage, and then when the ball drops at 11 o'clock in New York, then I load up my grandkids, whoever wants to go. They're teenagers now, and we head down, and we get right in for about the last 30 minutes of it, and it's so exciting. We go in on the Jefferson Street side, and they've got the big 2025 lit up so you can get pictures, and that screens for the music, and we watch the Music Note drop and the fireworks, and then we can be back out of there. So we spend about an hour, but it's the best hour of the night.
So you don't have trouble parking?
No, always go in on the Jefferson Street end and can always find somewhere and just walk right in, no problem.
Really? That's fascinating because they're claiming, and Heather, you tell how big was the crowd last year in your estimation? Did it fill the mall?
Oh yeah, it was huge, and even it was muddy last year. We're probably going to wear our mud boots again this year because it's been wet out there.
That's
but
a good call.
it doesn't stop people. I swear there are people dressed to the nines in their in their cocktail dresses and heels in the mud. It's crazy. The people watching is fantastic down there.
I bet it. Look, if it's anything like just people watching generally on a Friday or a Saturday night on Broadway, then I bet it's pretty fabulous.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that it is worth the 100 or 200,000 people that they claim are going to be down there, but, Heather's going to be amongst the mix. How many are you bringing, Heather?
I've got 6 of the grandchildren going with me.
So how old are these grandkids now?
This year I've got the ones ranging from like 10 to 16.
Okay. So a little younger than I was thinking because I'm thinking if I'm your grandchild, Heather, I would love it because if I'm of age, then I got Grandma Heather driving for us, right?
I do have one adult going, so yeah, I'll be the designated driver for sure.
Well, will you please call us back Thursday and let us know how it went?
I'll do it.
Who are you most excited about hearing from? There's Keith Urban down there. There's a bunch of different acts. I've got them right in front of me here. Who are you most excited to see?
Yeah. Well, since we'll be getting down there so late, we'll probably just catch
that's true.
Keith Urban and maybe Jelly Roll.
That's true. You won't catch a lot. I guess the festivities have already started down there.
Yeah, so I'm getting ready to turn on the TV and start watching the coverage on TV.
If you're not driving, if you're not designated driver, do you have do you have a glass of champagne typically at New Year's Eve, or how does that work?
I used to, but I always kept New Year's. I don't drink anymore, but New Year's was always the holiday that I did not drink so that I could load up the kids and take them downtown. So I would abstain from alcohol on New Year's every year so that I could do this.
Well, you're a wonderful grandma, and you're wonderful to call us back to let us know how things are going to go. And please let us know how everything happens. Call us back on Thursday and let us know, okay?
I'll let you know.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
All right. You're welcome.
All right. Appreciate the telephone call. There's Heather. She's all about it. She's making me feel a little bit of a homebody. Not enough to go anywhere.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, me either.
There just aren't the acts. I actually lied. I said I had it pulled up. I need to pull it back up here because I had the list of acts. Obviously, Keith Urban is the big headliner. He's done this for a number of years? Is that?
It seems like it.
It feels like that.
Yeah.
Could be wrong there, but yeah, singer. Here we go. Here's the full story. Keith Urban, our neighbor, right next door to us on Music Row, is headlining this week's or tonight's New Year's Eve festivity, a 5-hour event airing on CBS television. So,
I mean, we've really become, and we should be proud of it as a community, whether you go or not. We've become kind of a destination place outside of New York City. If you don't want to go to New York City, I mean, it's like we're that area that they look to represent, quote unquote, the American South.
Yeah, I think that's
I
fair.
mean, I think that's right.
Yeah.
It's not Atlanta. It's not Charlotte. It's not Dallas. It's Nashville. And that's pretty cool.
Yep.
The event will feature special musical performances. If you're going right now, this is what you can expect. Kane Brown, Parker McCollum, Jelly Roll, Luke Bryan, Eric Church, Luke Combs, Tyler Hubbard, Miranda Lambert, Post Malone, Shabuzi. What are you talking about? I don't know who Shabuzi is.
You can't say that.
I don't think I can say that on the radio. Brittany Spencer, Chris Stapleton, Zach Top, Lainey Wilson, and others. Urban, who will perform at the live event, will host alongside Rachel Smith from Entertainment Tonight. This year's event will be the 16th annual New Year's Eve concert in Nashville, the 8th year of it being held at Bicentennial Park. Gates are already open. They open at 5 o'clock. We missed Mayor Freddie O'Connell welcoming the crowd at 5:55.
Oh, darn
almost
it.
an hour. I know. Dadgummit, we should have played that. Clear bag policy if you're heading down for the event. Clear bags no larger than 12 by 12 by 5. Non-transparent wallets and cases no larger than 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches are permitted inside of the event perimeters. The event will air on CBS, which is where I'll be watching it from when not watching one of the bowl games later on tonight. Now, on to the and look, I don't know about parking. Heather seems like an honest and straightforward person. We love Heather. She's a loyal listener to Super Talk 99.7 WTN. She was willing to call us back, and I thank her immensely for that. But in doing so, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you believe that Heather is telling the truth when she says that parking is, quote, no problem?
I think it is. I think she's got something figured out.
She's got a system.
That most people don't. Yeah, that's what I think. I don't think it's if you didn't know that, okay, we can park here, I don't think you would park there. But she knows something that the general population does not. That's what I would say.
I mean, she said on 2 occasions, and she said it during the text, the Jefferson Street side. Whatever that means to you, that's probably the way to go if you're angling at it like Heather. So good luck to you. Now, on to the big things. So Blackstone and hash browns. Here's what I would recommend to Ben or anyone else watching, because hash browns can be a little bit tricky. You need it hot. You need it as hot as you can get it. You don't really need to do anything to the hash browns except to heat them and to brown. You want a brown crusty. That's what you want. You want brown and crusty. So 2 things. One, you need we used at Waffle House years ago what was called low melt, which was a low melting point vegetable oil that you have to put on the grill first. And that is the key. Do not put the oil on top of the hash browns and allow them to seep through the hash browns. These will make your hash browns greasy, and they will not brown in the fashion that you want them to brown. I would encourage you to invest in hash brown rings like you see at Waffle House, because that's going to give you the ability to compact your hash browns a little bit more, and you're going to get a nice crusty brown on the bottom of the hash brown. Number 2, if you have the ability to go to a restaurant supply store or a restaurant food service, I would encourage you to go ahead and get dehydrated hash browns. That's what Waffle House uses.
Really?
Yeah, so they use a dehydrated version that you would open up and you would soak for about 2 hours. And you open up the tops and you would fill them with water, and they had a water line that you fill to. And then at the end of soaking, they had a little punch at the bottom of the container that you could punch and let them drain naturally. And you don't drain them beyond what they do naturally. So you're going to leave some moisture in there. And that moisture is key to holding them together and to make them compact. You don't want them mushy, but you want them moist so that they compact. Put the oil on the bottom, a low melting point vegetable oil. And yes, I put the extra E in vegetable because it's there for a reason. And then good luck to you. And just wait longer than you think you need to before you flip them.
Yep.
Because they're never as brown as you think they are. Highest temperature possible on the Blackstone, and I think you'll do well. There you go. There's Matt Murphy's
advice. I like
Matt Murphy's Waffle House tips from me to you. It's 49 after the hour. We'll wrap things up in just a moment on Super Talk.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for Eurofix. Did you know Eurofix has a very different business philosophy? I found this out while I was listening to Brian Wilson in the drive, and now I am proud to be a spokesperson for Eurofix because I love it. Their staff at all their locations, they staff all their locations, I should say, with more people than the average auto repair shop, and they do this for a good reason. They do it because they want to be ready when your emergency pops up out of nowhere. Have you noticed how hard that it can be to get a right now appointment for vehicle repair? Some dealers, it's more than 2 weeks out just to get an appointment. Not at Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without dealer pricing since 1999, plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff to fix your car. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. If you're tired of waiting forever to get your car fixed, call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says we'll never be too busy for our customers. We are here to take their pain away right now. Eurofix repairs all European cars. Eurofix says yes to speedy repair when others won't or can't. Family owned for 26 years. Call 844-EUROFIX. 844-EUROFIX or go to myeurofix.com. Once again, myeurofix.com and tell them Matt Murphy sent you.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice.
Guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A few moments left between you, myself, Chris Webber. Ken Weaver is long gone. He is making his tracks down I-24, clearing the way for all of you if you're heading that way. I am alerted to the fact, Heather was on the phone with us a moment ago and talking about the New Year's celebration happening at Bicentennial Park. And look, God bless you. A lot of people go out. I'm not knocking it. I'm not that guy. I've never liked crowds. I'm crowd averse. You're crowd averse too, right?
Yeah, I tried to do the 4th of July thing down here one year. I got to about 8 o'clock and I said, nope, got to go.
You're just out?
Yep, too many people.
I love people. I would make a really, 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 really good rich person.
Okay.
Because I could get right? All of us. Because if I could just get airlifted in or have some sort of, I think I told the story when I got the opportunity to go to the sidelines of the Tennessee-Georgia game over in Athens, that we had, because Cameron Sexton was there, Speaker of the House, we had 2 state troopers, plainclothes state troopers, that were clearing the path everywhere we went. And I don't deserve to be in that arena. Trust me, I don't deserve any of what I'm about to say. But, it was like awesome. Man, I can get used to this. I understand how people can get pampered. So if I could just get airlifted in and watch as long as I wanted to watch and then get removed from the situation, I get so anxious going in and leaving.
Yeah.
It's not even when I'm there that it bothers me so much. It's the knowledge that I have to leave and I have to deal with the traffic going out. I get sweaty. I just can't handle it. But a listener noted that Heather is going at 11 o'clock, and Heather is not doing the tourist mistake of trying to park downtown. A lot of the tourists that come into town,
that's true.
They're parking downtown, moving over to Bicentennial because they know they'll be downtown, I guess, in the aftermath, I suppose.
I guess so.
I imagine. One way or the other, some 200,000 expected to be downtown. 1738 says, what happened to the Trump list? Don't you worry. I got your Trump list, and I think I can get it in the 3 minutes that we need. The top 10 best moves of Donald J. Trump in 2024. Now, if we think of 24 as an election season rather than a calendar year, that starts us off at number 10. The first big move by Donald Trump, skipping the Republican candidate debates that started in August of 2023, reducing his opponents to Lilliputians in search of a Gulliver. He was Gulliver. They were the Lilliputians. Without Trump, the public lost interest in Tim Scott, Chris Christie, Mike Pence. Remember Mike Pence? He actually ran for president in 2024. And nobody cared about any of these people. Even Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and Vivek Ramaswamy were barely took a moment's notice because the big man was not on stage. It was a master stroke. Number 9. He cemented his hold on the Republican Party's base with a commanding primary performance. He announced his desire to see GOP chair Ronna McDaniel replaced in February. It was a master move. She was replaced by Michael Whatley, and then eventually his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, who were instrumental in securing victory in November. Number 8. From the time he was indicted by the so-called hush money trial in March of 2023, he realized his popularity increased every time his enemies tried to put him into prison. So he went to court when he didn't have to. He showed up and was on camera when he didn't have to be. And every time he was, it galvanized in the people's minds that he was the man and they were trying to politically persecute him. Let's see. Number 7, media ridiculing Trump for campaigning in liberal New York City once again played themselves for fools. That campaigning in New York was a masterstroke. Number 6, he seized on Joe Biden's proposal that he hold a presidential debate in late June, and that ultimately dispatched of Joe Biden. Donald Trump's agreement to that debate probably secured him the victory by securing him a Kamala Harris candidacy. And I'll skip down to number 1, the best move of the year, the Trump dance.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. It's everywhere.
The Trump dance. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing the Trump dance. Absolutely love it. By the way, before I forget, Kevin, I haven't forgotten about you. Kevin writes in and says, Matt, my daughter Lily, who is 13, was disappointed about Brian leaving. We all were. However, she thinks you're awesome too and wants you to say hi. Happy New Year's Eve, Lily. Thank you for listening to the show. You're my favorite youngest listener. Thank you to Chris Webber. Thank you to Ken Weaver. And thank you to all of you. 2024 has been a blast. Hopefully 2025 will be the same. Y'all be safe. We'll see you in 25. Until then, so long, everybody.